Click. A crisp and ear-piercing sound of bone cracks sounded. Pelusalino's face was distorted, and the door opened when he avoided the long sword. After a blow, Chaos kicked heavily on his chest. Pelusalino spurted blood on the spot, turned into golden light and flew out, splattering blood along the way. Shoo. The attack of Chaos was not over. All kinds of swords, guns, swords and halberds of the king's treasure flew in the air, all strangling towards Pelusalino. Especially the lock of the sky. As long as there is one tide, then there will be countless ones. Pelusalino will be the crab in the pot when it is flat or round, it depends on Chaos. And the goddess didn't look at it either. She transformed into Senju Guanyin solemn and majesty. The overwhelming palms were murderous. Whether it was a horizontal push or a grip, it was an attack with great lethality. This battle is not 1 versus 1, but Chaos besieging Pelusalino. Jingle bell. There was a sound of metal collision in the entire high altitude, and a lightsaber appeared in Pelusalino's hand. He can see that these attacks are constantly shrinking the scope of his activities. Careless. The sky and the earth. Chaos was moved, and the goddess who had originally maintained Senju Guanyin suddenly exploded and turned into skylocks, connected with other skylocks that changed with swords, guns and swords, and quickly blocked the sky in an attempt to bring Bolu. Salino was completely besieged. Not good. Looking at the shrinking cage, Pelusalino's face changed in shock. The most cruel and inhumane thing is that the inside of the lock of the sky began to emerge with cold light spikes, especially covered with armed colors. Pelusalino glowed all over, like a cross-shaped sun, ready to give it a go. But at this moment, the net of heaven and earth exploded and turned into a 50-meter-high giant sword. Old Shaw, withdraw. With a solemn expression on Chaos, he directly gave up his attack and appeared on the giant sword. At the same time, a lock of heaven wrapped Crocodile and quickly soared into the sky and disappeared into the sky. It's not that Chaos is unwilling to deal with Pelusalino, but it's too late if he doesn't leave. Just after Chaos took a few breaths, a huge roar came from the other direction. A powerful and ferocious breath cut across the sea, and finally stopped on the sea and caused a huge explosion. Escape? Crane stepped on the moonwalk. A pothole was formed in the sea under his feet, and a lot of steam rose all over his body, and his eyes looked sharply towards the direction of Chaos's escape. The long hair of the dancing ponytail fell down, and the breath was strong and compelling. The appearance of the crane gave Pelusalino a sigh of relief. This time he was careless. Almost suffered a big loss. Boss. What are we doing in such a hurry? I can solve that CPO right away. At a height of 1,000 meters, Crocodile stood on the golden greatsword. Somehow he didn't understand Chaos. You haven't cultivated your knowledge and beauty yet. There is a powerful figure from Marine. Although Chaos didn't know who the other party was, the aura was really powerful. The pressure on him is strong. And Pelusalino is not so easy to kill. If you continue to procrastinate, Marine may have other support, and you won't be able to leave if you want to. Boss. Are you too scared? Crocodile put his hands on his shoulders and snorted slightly. He felt that he would run away without even seeing the opposite side, and he had no cards. This is a humiliation to his arrogance. You are a trash, you deserve to become a disabled person in the future, and you were the first to have an operation. You can't solve the enemy for 10 minutes, so what use is it for you? Chaos swears mercilessly, his eyes are full of contempt, like a sharp sword piercing through Crocodile's heart. I didn't try my best, otherwise that guy would have died. Crocodile flushed sophistry. Keep blowing. Chaos sneered again and again, turning his head and didn't bother to look at Crocodile. Crocodile clenched his fists, his forehead throbbed with veins. In the past 3 months, he had experienced this man's poisonous tongue, thinking that he was used to it and calmed down. But every time I still can't hold it. After all, he was still a young man of 18 or 19 years old, and his social beatings and life experience had not yet settled down. It is easier to impulsively. Holy Land. Marie Joy. What are you talking about? The heavenly gold offered by the Gilgamem kingdom was snatched by the Golden Emperor Gaia Chaos. In the office of the highest authority in the world government, the 5 elderly people stand or sit, all looking at the reporting staff. Yes. Talk about the specifics. One of them, 5 elders, wearing a flat hat, had a sullen face obviously suppressing anger. If this news were known by those celestial dragons, it would have been unclear. But the one he was most angry about was the Golden Emperor, which was simply blatantly provoking the world government. After listening to the report, 5 elders all sat on the sofa, with a stack of news materials on the table in front of them. About Chaos. I believe you all know the value of the golden fruit. Now that you are openly plundering the heavenly gold, you can no longer let it go.
5 elders, with a birthmark on his forehead, gave a cold snort.
Let Sengoku come back and catch him personally. The Golden Emperor must be in our hands. At the same time, increase the reward.
This time 5 elders was obviously cruel. Directly ordered Marine Admiral to catch him personally. In the past, this situation was faced with powerful players such as Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Lonely Red, and World Destroyer.
And Chaos succeeded in standing on the same level with these legends by virtue of Golden Fruit and Death behavior. Chaos didn't know all of this, and he continued to rob the heavenly gold from other franchise countries. 10 escorting merchant ships were seized in just one day. It's just that the value is not as much as that offered by the Gilgamem Kingdom, and the main thing is gold. In addition to a small amount of gold and silver jewelry, most of the heavenly gold of one of the merchant ships are all kinds of spices, medicinal materials and so on. Even so, the goddess also added up to 50 meters high. Chaos is happy. But the world government was extremely angry, especially celestial dragons. 10 ships were robbed one after another. How could the news be kept hidden? And Chaos now has its own hot search, and the news of snatching the gold from the sky has spread all over the sea. In addition to wanting to capture Chaos, many pirate forces still have a trace of admiration. After all, there are only a handful of pirates who dare to plunder the gold in the sky and despise the world government. But survival is the real skill. New world, somewhere marine fortress. Brew, brew. A phone worm sounded. In the office, Sengoku was discussing with several vice admiral and rear admiral. The phone worm on the table interrupted the meeting. This is Sengoku. Sengoku connected the phone and had already guessed who it was. Sengoku, leave now. There was a majestic voice from the phone worm, which was very profound. I will go back after I have explained the matter. Sengoku was so helpless. This was not the first time I called him. Now the new world situation is a bit chaotic, especially after the Roger pirates enter the new world. You can come back with confidence. New world has Garp and Zephyr enough. After speaking, he hung up the phone. And Sengoku rubbed his forehead, and that was all he could do. Zephyr guards the fortress, and Garp goes out to bite people, a perfect match. Next, Sengoku explained a few things, and then led the adjutant to leave New World. Extra. Extra. Gold Emperor Gaia Chaos blatantly snatched the heavenly gold supplied to the world government from the franchising countries. The Golden Emperor appeared on the Grand Line to snatch the heavenly gold. As long as you get the Golden Emperor, you get everything. The Gold Emperor's latest reward has risen from 783 million to 1,098 million. It is said that the Golden Emperor controls gold worth more than 50 billion Baileys. The latest news, Marine Admiral Sengoku will personally capture the Golden Emperor. The King of the Desert, Crocodile, under the Golden Emperor, has a reward of 560 million, and he is still a Logia sand fruit capable person. It is reported that the Golden Emperor, with the King of the Desert, has looted 30 merchant ships containing heavenly gold. For 2 or 3 days in a row, all headlines in the news were related to Golden Emperor Gaia Chaos, including Crocodile. The reward was once 560 million Baileys. He is still only an 18 or 19-year-old child, but he has accepted a bounty that he shouldn't bear at this age. In New World, a whale-shaped pirate ship is sailing in the wind and waves in a certain sea area. Kulala, the latest newspaper, seems to have something to do with this pirate. On the huge deck, a Whitebeard with a crescent moon, and a man with long wavy golden hair, who are more than 6 meters tall, are like giants. At this moment, he is holding a newspaper in one hand and a huge jug in the other. With wine. This man will be called the strongest in the world in the future, and he is Whitebeard Edward Newgate. Father, the outside world is saying that as long as you get the Golden Emperor, you can get the world. Under Whitebeard, there is a tall, thin man with long eyelids and long eyelids with pineapple hair. The captain of the 1st Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, Phoenix Marco. Devil Fruit is a monster species even rarer than Logia. Golden Fruit, do you control gold? There are many other pirates on the deck, all of whom will be famous in the future. For example, Diamond Joz, captain of the 3rd Division, Sachi, captain of the 4th Division, etc. The above said that the Golden Emperor is a Paramecia Golden Fruit ability, who can sense gold and manipulate gold. To control him is equivalent to controlling wealth. In some respects, he has indeed gained the whole world. The 5th Squad Captain Vista wears a top hat, and his beard seems to have just begun to grow. There is a kind of openly snatching the gold from the sky. Father, our finances seem to be a bit difficult, or let him be your son. Marco knows his dad's stinginess and often sends treasures back to his hometown. Regardless of their reputation, the Whitebeard pirates are actually very expensive. In addition, the father is addicted to alcohol and often holds banquets, resulting in the financial deficit of the Whitebeard pirates. Huh. That's a good idea. As the head chef, Sachi's eyes lit up for the first time. Whoever knows best about the financial difficulties of the Whitebeard pirates is none other than him and Marco. Cool lala. Whitebeard took a sip of wine and subconsciously pinched his chin. He was thinking. Children, go to the Grand Line. Just thinking for 3 seconds, Whitebeard waved his hand. Oh. A group of pirates raised their hands and cheered. As long as the Golden Emperor becomes their brother, they can drink and eat meat afterwards. It is not a dream to hold 50 banquets a day. In this way, the most powerful pirate group in the era of the big pirates in the future went to the Grand Line. No matter how you look at it, it's nonsensical and sloppy. Even a little childish. But this is Whitebeard when he was young. Feel free to sail on the sea with your family. It's hard to think of a sloppy man who broke into naval headquarters for one person and almost destroyed Marineford after 20 years. The dream he pursues is just a home and relatives. Except for the Whitebeard pirates operation. The Big Mom pirates and Beasts pirates, which returned without success 3 months ago, were almost dispatched again. New world, several kilometers in the sky. All kinds of fairyland-like islands are suspended, with high mountains and flowing water and waterfalls hanging down. There is a large island in the center, and a series of huge palaces are located. Although a banquet is being held, the atmosphere is somewhat depressing. Admiral, this time I will definitely catch the Golden Emperor back. Last time, he threw an empty lone wolf spander. At this time, his 6 beards trembled, and he stood up from his seat with a sharp and firm expression. He is also unlucky. Last time I went to Sabodi Archipelago, it can be said that I was bruised all over my body. Not to mention the process, the key is that he waited at Sabodi Archipelago for half a month, but did not see the shadow of the Golden Emperor. Even if the Jelly Queen Anne came later, it would be useless. Once the Golden Emperor disappeared, it was the kind of evaporating from the world, and there was no news at all. Last time I actually made a trip for nothing. Admiral, I am very interested in this man. A sweet smell fluttered in the hall, and a woman stood up in the 9th position. A blue waist-length hair is hanging down, with the green eyes that are not smiling, the high nose bridge and the hot red lips, as well as the sexy cool clothes and shorts printed with lace, all show that this woman is mature and beautiful. Stepping away from the long legs wearing crystal high-heeled sandals, Annie lifted the blue hair on her shoulders and fungye earrings, standing in the middle of the hall and looking at the first Golden Lion smoking a cigar. Gia ha ha. Golden Lion bit his cigar and laughed, and waved his hand. In that case, leave this task to you two. Admiral, wait for my good news. Annie smiled amorously, turned around and walked on the catwalk to face Spander's index finger with red nail polish on the hook. Admiral, I request that this operation be based on me. Spander flushed, not wanting to obey a woman's orders. At any rate, he is also offering a reward of 710 million lone wolf Spander, and the captain of the 15th Fleet, and he is also famous outside. It's also a matter of face. Oh. If you want to challenge my position, I don't mind. Annie stopped abruptly, and the floor of the whole hall suddenly became soft, and at the same time a stronger sweetness filled the hall, causing many people in the hall to change their expressions. I want to fight. Annie, put away your abilities. Spandy, even lousy can't beat this woman. You should be the captain of your 15th Fleet honestly. The captain of the 14th Fleet, Wheeler Terrica, looked at Spandy like an idiot. Count the few women in the Flying Pirates, which one is easy to provoke? What's more, Spandy couldn't even beat him, and there were 4 fleet captains 13, 12, 11, and 10 above him. Jelly Queen Anne is the captain of the 9th Fleet, and this ranking alone knows the gap. The 20 fleet captains of the entire Flying Pirate group are all ranked according to their strength. The captain of the fleet in the back can challenge the captain of the fleet in front. Their current rankings have been maintained for 3 or 4 years. If nothing happens, it may last for several years. Huh. One day I will become the captain of the First Fleet. Spand snorted coldly, holding his chest very proudly. The others shrugged, not surprising. What a cute and stupid man. Annie habitually lifted her blue hair, and the soft ground returned to normal. Then she walked on the sexy catwalk, wishing to shake her ass off, and finally disappeared at the entrance of the hall. Sabodi Archipelago, Marine Station. Once Oak's office, now Sengoku is sitting in the first place, and on the sofa below are cranes, Paluzolino, flying squirrels and others. Sengoku came here as soon as he left New World, not even Marineford. As for Oaks, he has been picked up from Vice Admiral to Colonel and transferred to New World. Regardless of the circumstances, it is a fact that the Golden Emperor has learned to return his life because he has learned. Not being beaten to the end, or even being detained, is considered lighthearted. It can be said that both Tobit and Oaks were miserable by chaos. Have you found the trace of the Golden Emperor? Sengoku took the newspaper in his hand, which contained information about chaos. Almost all Marines who know it have been investigated. The celestial gold offered by the Kingdom of Kakati an hour ago disappeared. He did not lift his head and took a sip of the coffee, but also looked at the information in his hand. Porusolino, you have fought against the Golden Emperor. How strong is the opponent? Sengoku looked at Paluzolino on the sofa. Take a loss. Paluzolino spread his hands, very calm. Did not feel embarrassed at all. Sengoku furrowed his brows, obviously a lot of dignity. Even you suffered a loss? Sengoku seemed to be talking to himself, and once again focused on the data. There were various attacking moves dictated by Paluzolino, as well as what Tobit and Oaks had learned about. They are all moves that Chaos has used. Even if there is no name, some moves have been carefully described. This survey can be said to be very detailed. What kind of moves will cause what effects, what harms, and how to break them have been analyzed in detail. Very professional. The Golden Emperor's character is very arrogant and arrogant. Credit? Sengoku knocked on the table with one hand, and the other information was okay. Whether it's arrogant or arrogant, this kind of person is easier to deal with. But this is a bit of credit. Although the Golden Emperor looks very arrogant, if you look closely, you will find that this guy is actually a wise man. He threatened Tobit to practice 6 forms and threatened Ox to return his life. The key is that this guy only took 2 or 3 months to cultivate successfully. This is the most terrifying. This guy is very talented. I don't think it's that easy to deal with. As for credit, it's just a reference, he said. The more she looked at the information, the more she felt that the Golden Emperor was a guy who had online IQ, knew how to advance and retreat, had a bottom line, and knew the rules of the weak. After all, an arrogant guy can't attach so much importance to cultivation. He also specifically threatened Marine to get the 6th form. It is estimated that during the few months that he disappeared, he was practicing. She was looking forward to meeting this guy, but it was a pity that the guy ran a little faster last time. Post Island. One of the 7 routes in the first half of the Grand Line, Sabodi Archipelago can be reached by passing Post Island, which does not appear in the original work. The town on this island is very prosperous. Of course, it is also a bit confusing. Slave markets, red light districts, pub bathing centers, killings and looting also occur frequently. In other words, the most basic nature of islands in the world, except those in remote areas that are not on the route, is the same. After all, this is a world dominated by pirates. Boss, is it okay for us to sway so much? On the busy streets, Crocodile looked around, and he always felt that many people's eyes were on them. That is not an illusion. With a cigar dangling from his mouth in front of Sao's, his face looked cold and contemptuous, and the fancy golden goose feather coat behind him, he moved with the wind as he walked, and he had a strong temperament. It is the same style as Doflamingo, but the material is gold. Lao Sha, you are my person, and you will be arrogant in everything from now on. You can see if you walk like a woman, can you be hockey? Show your arrogance, I believe you have that potential. Chaos stretched out his hand to pinch the cigar, spit out a smoke ring and frowned at Crocodile, with a slight dissatisfaction. Now if someone comes out and yells at us and kills me, it's not surprising. Crocodile pursed his mouth. He understood the man's ostentation better. This is just death. Walking a road, or an expression can cause trouble. Nothing will happen. Crocodile is even more confused about the future. He always felt that his head was hanging on his shoulders temporarily, and he might land on the ground someday. As soon as Crocodile's words fell, his way was stopped by more than a dozen pirates. They all looked at Chaos with a cruel smile, the golden goose feather coat to be precise. One by one, they were fierce and evil or showed centipede scars on their bodies, coupled with that tall and magnificent figure. They had a strong deterrent effect, and they knew it was not easy to provoke them at first glance. Captain, I'm pretty sure it is gold, and it has no impurities. After a pirate took a telescope similar to a magnifying glass and carefully observed the golden goose feather coat, his wretched face was full of greed. Puff haha. Lousy is a great pirate offering a reward of 44 million. I can spare your life by surrendering your cloak. The headed bucktooth pirate, with a big face like a washbasin, threatened Chaos in a gloomy manner. These two people were over, and they were spotted by the bucktooth pirates. Is that really gold? How do I feel I have seen that person somewhere? Deserve it. That guy is angry when he doesn't know why he looks at it. Does it feel arrogant? It looks like Uranus lousy. The more I look at it, the more wrong it is. I must have seen that man somewhere. I can't remember it. I think I have seen it there too. There are many pirates or thugs watching the theater around, all pointing and talking about it. But Chaos in the field was very angry. His face was pulling his hips down at a speed visible to the naked eye, and even a little blue. There is already a cold light in the black eyes, don't you know, Lousy? There was a piece of ice stuck in his throat, so that the voice was as cold and sharp as a knife, and there was disbelief and anger in it. Who are you? Throw the cloak over and don't let Lousy hack you to death. Captain Bucktooth drew out the gear knife, angrily a little impatient. You don't even know me. You don't know me. How dare you not know me? Chaos almost gritted his teeth and growled. The news report that he offered a reward of 1.98 billion pele has just been released. In addition, the sea has rumored that the Golden Emperor will get the world, and the Golden Emperor will snatch the gold from the sky. The Golden Emperor owns gold worth more than 50 billion baileys. Marine dispatched Admiral Sengoku to personally arrest the Golden Emperor. Just take out any of the above news, and it's all resounding. But now someone doesn't know him. Occupation is still a pirate. Is this a face slap? Isn't Chaos so arrogant, high profile and domineering just because the world knows his reputation? This island is so prosperous, and there is a piece of news about him posted on the wall in the distance, but the pirate in front of him opened his eyes and said nonsense that he did not know him? Crocodile shuddered around him, subconsciously stepping away, and then looked at the Bucktooth pirate group with some pity. He knows how strong this man's vanity is, too much bullying. Chaos's face became fierce, his right hand lifted and pressed down, and a storm suddenly lifted the golden goose feather coat behind him, and that black vertical hair, sword eyebrows, and black eyes quickly turned into golden. A huge roar came from the sky, and then it got dark. Everyone in the entire town and street subconsciously raised their heads to look up at the sky, then slightly opened their mouths in a daze, and then turned pale in amazement. The huge shadow was revealed. It was so vast and sacred, a head of 3,000 gold silk flying along with the wrist ribbon. The huge light wheel and palace skirt swayed and turned on the back. The peerless face of the allure was so sacred and inviolable. The golden phoenix eyes looked down, and the pirate thugs on the street were all stiff, their lips trembling subconsciously. Yellow. Golden Emperor. He is the Golden Emperor. A reward of 189 million yuan is offered for the Golden Emperor who snatches the gold from the sky. The richest man in the world. Catch him and capture the world. Thousands of pirates were slaughtered in the Saboti archipelago, and the corpses piled up like mountains and blood flowed into rivers. Damn it. Panic, greed, shock, and fear played out all over the island. The Bucktooth Pirates group stared at by the goddess now all fell to the ground and swallowed, the cold sweat on their foreheads kept flowing. He said why is so familiar. It turned out to be the Golden Emperor, a ruthless man who once slaughtered thousands of pirates in Saboti archipelago. Chaos opened his hands and closed his eyes, listening to all the chaos and horror around him, enjoying himself very much. The whole town was messed up because of his arrival. That kind of spiritual enjoyment is hard for ordinary people to experience. The original angry vanity was filled all at once. But Crocodile behind him can't wait to hide his face and leave, embarrassed, really embarrassed. He felt that this man was a weird thing. It looks like this now. Just like showing what is meant by secondary 2 inches in the public. Just because a little pirate didn't know him, he summoned the goddess with such a big fanfare, he had to make a noise in the city, and I was afraid that others would not know that the Golden Emperor was here. Please, now the whole world wants to catch you. Can we keep a low profile? Little did they know that other people's feelings are completely different from Crocodile. Crocodile, the goddess, was so tired of seeing it, but these people hadn't seen it before, and it was still so close at hand. Think about the height of 60 meters, whether it is face, figure, or dress, it is unique in the world, and the whole body is gold, so who can keep calm? Just like his sister is a big star, in the eyes of outsiders, it is unattainable, goddess, and unprofane. But in the eyes of the closest people, that's the case. On the contrary, they still dislike it. To outsiders, it was visual and shocking, and the Golden Emperor was spreading the arrogance of the king. But in Crocodile's eyes, they are words such as shame, middle two, strange flower and so on. This is the gap. Huh. When Chaos closed his eyes and enjoyed it, the wind was in vain in his ears, as if an invisible weapon was coming, causing Chaos to open his eyes suddenly and feel a sense of danger. The upper body quickly turned gold and was wrapped in armed color. In the next second, sparks splashed around his neck. As the gold earrings and a strand of blonde hair fell, Chaos actually left a trace of white stains on his neck. Chaos's face changed slightly, and he swept sideways with a whip leg. The huge storm spread out. Cracks were formed in the stone ground under his feet, and Chaos could only feel someone swept, but there was nothing in front of him. However, there were 2 traces of footprints on the ground. Thanks to seeing and hearing, the color is released around the clock. Otherwise, this attack is not as simple as leaving a trace. Who? Crocodile tensed. 2 mini sandstorms appeared in his hands, and he didn't notice anything just now. Chaos's face was dark and scary, and his golden eyes swept 10 meters to the left. Although there was nothing, he was aware of something. Other people on the street were also taken aback. The Golden Emperor seems to have been attacked. Captain, let's go. The Bucktooth pirate group, which had collapsed on the ground, found an opportunity and prepared to withdraw. But Sows was unwilling. Boom boom boom. More than a dozen knives, guns and swords fell, nailing everyone to the ground in one fell swoop. The screams and begging for mercy gradually extinguished, only the pungent blood stained the ground. In Chaos's opinion, robbing him without knowing him is guilty. What's more, these people are guilty of death. From the beginning to the end, Chaos did not leave his gaze, and his gaze was 10 meters to the left. Dare to attack or show up. Chaos took a sip of his cigar, smoke rings from his nostrils, gold earrings and goose feather coats fluttered without wind. The huge light wheel behind the goddess was suspended in midair, all transformed into 18 weapons falling down to cover the whole street. Go. Leave here. The shadow on the head made the others pale, and they all fled in embarrassment. If those weapons were to fall, they would all die without corpses. At the scene, Chaos's sight suddenly moved 30 meters to the right, and all the swords, guns and halberds falling from the sky were flying like bullets. Boom. Rumble. Indiscriminate attacks flew down, and most of the streets exploded again and again, and the surrounding buildings collapsed like paper, forming ruins. The dust covering the clouds covered the surrounding area, and Chaos snorted coldly. Want to leave after the sneak attack? Court death. The goddess standing in the sky burst into a sudden, turned into gold powder and scattered across the town, and the world turned into a golden ocean in the blink of an eye. Some pirates or civilians were ecstatic, and desperately carried the gold dust into their arms. Some even hold them in their pockets, but these are all gold powder. Compared to these ignorant guys, some pirates with online IQs all entered the house to hide. They don't believe that the Golden Emperor will be so generous, and there must be a problem with those gold powder. As the world was covered with gold powder, a figure of gold powder appeared in the empty place. It deserves to be the Golden Emperor with a reward of 1.98 million. It really isn't that easy to kill. The figure was revealed. It was a tall, thin man with a mask, wearing a nightgown, and a black scarf around his neck, dressed as an assassin. Holding a dagger in his hand, he flicked away the gold powder from his body with a shake, and his whole body was covered with armed color. I don't kill the unknown. Chaos looked at Goya Trense indifferently, his abilities intrigued him. Transparent Goa Trends, a pirate hunter. Goya Terrence turned his dagger and stood in front of him in an attacking posture. Lao Sha. Do you know him? Chaos has roughly determined the opponent's ability. Unsurprisingly, it should be Paramecia Transparent Fruit ability. I didn't expect to meet here. I've heard of it. It seems that a pirate offering a reward of 400 million Baileys has been arrested. The mini dust storm in Crocodile's hands disappeared, and he happened to have heard of the name of the transparent man Goya Trents. Still very famous in the sea, especially as a pirate hunter. Devil Fruit's ability is pretty good, barely qualified to be my subordinate. Now you have 2 choices, either surrender or die. A small piece of gold powder flew, turned into a nail clipper and was held by Chaos for manicure. Somewhat casually. Sure enough, arrogant. Although Goa Terrence was wearing a mask, he could vaguely hear sarcasm and disdain in his voice. Obviously he didn't take Chaos in his eyes. If he wants to go with his ability, no one can stop it. This is self-confidence. Although the pirates who died in his hands did not have 1 billion Baileys, there were still 4 or 5 billion Baileys. In his opinion, the Golden Emperor's reward is simply not worthy of virtue. Nothing more than the high value of the fruit ability, and the looting of the heavenly gold annoys celestial dragons, which raises the reward to 998 million. It is estimated that the strength is the same. Since the first sneak attack has failed, let's retreat. Emperor Golden, I will fetch your head next time, but don't let others take it. Goya Trance's words fell, and his whole body became transparent again. Where did you go? Crocodile showed off his knowledge, but didn't perceive the other party's existence. Obviously, the other party's knowledge was stronger than him. The pirate who can kill 4 or 5 billion Baileys is not a weak one as expected. Want to go? Chaos smiled contemptuously, and the other party was arrogant in front of him, which was just putting him on eye drops. If this allows him to escape, Chaos will never get through his thoughts. God's tornado. Raising his right hand and squeezing it hard, it rendered a golden town. All the gold powder turned to form a tornado of heaven and earth, and finally turned into black gold and swept the whole town, sweeping everything and destroying it. Damn it. Run. The Golden Emperor is crazy. The pirates, who had been far away, looked at the black gold tornado that was constantly sweeping through and even began to turn the sky and clouds, and they were shocked at how far they continued to run. The whole town is shaking. This trick was learned from Crocodile by Chaos. It turns all the gold into golden sand, and then turns to form a golden saloon wind. If left alone, it will become bigger and bigger. After all, some dirt, sand, etc. will be drawn in along the way, and it will eventually form natural tornado. That's the real mighty power of nature. It can be said that Chaos has now developed the golden fruit to be like Logia. At least the power is like this in some respects, such as this tornado of the gods. The only flaw is that the name is very Lu. Damn it. Goya Trance, who was already transparent, felt the dragon hurricane increasing suction behind him, and his speed suddenly slowed down. The most important thing is that the tornado has been following him, which shows that the Golden Emperor has noticed his position. The opposing party's knowledge is very strong. Call out. But the biggest trouble has just begun. Chaos disappeared, and when it appeared, it was half a meter off the ground, golden, armed, an iron body blessed to form a black gold. His eyes were cold and a foot swept across the army. The large piece of air was evacuated, and the eardrum was torn vigorously. In the place where there was no one, Goa Trends held the dagger in one hand, his face was full of shock. Ding zizi, the huge force of the landslide struck, and the armed dagger collided with the black gold whip leg. Sparks exploded out of thin air. You could see the whip leg moving forward, pulling the dagger on Gotran's chest in one fell swoop. The sound of bone cracking sounded for the first time. Gotran spurted blood in his mouth and looked painful. His transparent body was revealed, and it turned into a cannonball and smashed the ground horizontally. After leaving a tattered gully, he didn't even have time to breathe. Once again became transparent and disappeared in the same place, because the tornadoes that connected heaven and earth had already hit him. Ah! Chaos sneered on the ground, flicked the gold earring on his left ear, and instantly turned into a dart like a golden lightning, shooting at the deserted ruins in one fell swoop. With a painful grunt, Goya Trance revealed his body. As the ground rolled, a wound appeared on his arm, splashing with blood. Ding ding. With several metal collision sounds, the right earring of Chaos and the gold ring worn by his 10 fingers were suspended in the air and turned into a mini dart, wrapped in black and gold with his arms, and shot at Goa Trance with sound howls. Damn it. Goya Terrence's hairs exploded and disappeared in place and fled quickly. He didn't expect the Golden Emperor to develop the golden fruit to such a level. The main thing is that the opponent can perceive his position. In the past, he relied on seeing and hearing colors and transparent fruits to make sneak attacks all the time. But today it was hasty. On this strength, I dare to be arrogant in front of me, who will give you the courage? The icy contempt sound sounded, and Chaos turned into human-shaped black metal, but the vertical hair was very soft and still fluttering. At this moment, his hands were inserted into Kabuto and swept once again. The movement is very elegant. The big face under the mask of Goyatrans was distorted, holding a dagger in his right hand to stop him, but the force was too strong, and it flew out again to penetrate through the houses, and finally lay at the end constantly coughing up blood. I didn't even want to roll on the spot, and in the next second several potholes appeared on the ground, which were darts. Before he could even mention it, Goyatran's scalp exploded, and Chaos fell from the sky to press down. Goyatrans was once again embarrassed, but Chaos moved quickly. In the blink of an eye, the right foot leaned back, and then kicked out like a broken bamboo. Goyatrans crossed his hands in his abdomen, and his eyes were almost bursting in the middle of the foot. The whole person pushed out on the ground like cooked shrimp, and finally couldn't hold it and shot into the tornado. The infinite power began to pull, and Goyatrans was covered with armed color, and even closed his breath, but the friction caused by those sands turning was too strong, and his armed color was quickly consuming. As long as the armed color is consumed, he will be ground into powder by these golden sands. I can be your subordinate and spare my life. Goya Terence was really panicked. In the face of death, few people can calm down. At this moment, Chaos stood in midair watching the tornado stirring the wind and clouds in front of him, and gradually escaped his control. He also heard Goa Terence's begging for mercy. With both hands open to use the ability, the constantly rotating tornado began to receive resistance, but it would take a while to stop completely. Almost 10 seconds later, the tornado stopped turning, and with the huge explosion, it turned into a goddess again. At the same time, a large amount of mud and debris fell from the sky. The entire sky cloud formed Uzumaki, which gradually moved out in all directions. Chaos frowned and looked at Goa Trends, who was pitted on the ground with only his upper body, and was almost swallowed for the last time. It seems that he is not qualified to be his own subordinate. If he sticks to these 10 seconds, he may still consider it. As for now, forget it. Lao Sha, go find some fruits, apples, bananas, pineapples, grapes, etc., faster. Chaos fell from the sky, pinching his chin, intending to test his thoughts. After all, the value of transparent fruits is still quite large. What if those thoughts on the forum post are successfully guessed? Then he can build up a force that explodes the sky, and when the sea is in chaos, he will have the final say in the Golden Emperor. It doesn't matter if it fails, it is waste utilization anyway. Fruit? Crocodile was a little confused, but the man sometimes couldn't figure it out, and all kinds of strange movements and behaviors were hard to understand. He was not surprised, and he was a little surprised and turned into sand and flew out of the ruins. Why are there no comments? Is it good? You guys just say something, even if it's cursing. If you have any opinions, say, otherwise, how can I just copy the book review and write it honestly? If you don't speak, doesn't this increase my workload? That's too much. Ding Chang. With a wave of chaos, the light behind the goddess turns around, and finally turns into an airtight spherical room next to Goyatrans. That's right. Chaos intends to try to deprive Devil Fruit. There were many related speculations in the forums and posts in the last life. Among them, Blackbeard deprived Devil Fruit, and most guessed that it was because of Dark Fruit. There are also a few that are in an airtight environment, close the capable person in some fruits, and then kill the capable person. Maybe Devil Fruit will re-enter the new fruit, and then transform into Devil Fruit. But this airtight environment is a bit particular. Some said they used black cloth, some said they used sea stone, and Chaos plans to try gold first. Chaos was actually on a whim. Even if it was unsuccessful, there would be no loss. And if it fails this time, he plans to try it with black cloth and sea stone in the future. According to Chaos, the airtight environment made by sea stone has the greatest chance. After all, sea stone restrains Devil Fruit. The other is Dark Fruit. Only these two methods are the most likely. Boss. Crocodile's movements were fairly fast, and Goa Terence could really breathe out. Throw it in. There was a hole in the spherical room, and Crocodile hurriedly threw in the fruit he found. There were apples and bananas, and almost all the fruit stalls had brought. Chaos waved his hand, and a golden branch stretched out from the spherical room, which rolled Goa Terence and disappeared to the ground. The entire spherical room was integrated without any gap. Gotrans could suffocate to death without Chaos's hands. However, Chaos still helped Goa Terence. A golden spike protruded from the spherical shape, which penetrated Goa Terence's head in one fell swoop. Boss. What are you doing? Crocodile still didn't understand why Chaos wanted to do so. It is so troublesome to kill a person, and I also go to buy fruit. Is it to pay homage to Goa Terence? It's so kind. Obviously it made people so miserable. You do not understand. Chaos carried his back with one hand and felt the inside of the gold carefully. Goa Terence was already dead and couldn't die anymore. Crocodile pursed his mouth. Why don't you tell me how I understand? He hates this thing about Chaos most. Pretending to be unpredictable at every turn. As everyone knows, it looks like a neurosis to outsiders. 5 minutes later. 10 minutes later. Crocodile became impatient. There were a lot of peeping pirates in the surrounding ruins, all looking at Chaos and Crocodile inexplicably. Does the Golden Emperor want to suffocate the transparent man Goa Trends? Isn't it? The methods are so cruel. Some pirates looked at Chaos in horror. knowing that Goa Terrence was on the verge of death, and even if it didn't take long, they would die, but the Golden Emperor didn't let it go, but wanted to suffocate Goa Terrence. This is too cruel. I have to torture before I die. It's utterly desolate. Boss, that guy is dead. Crocodile is getting blurry, it's been 10 minutes. Chaos paid no attention, but frowned and felt the inside of the gold. In his perception, Goa Terrence was indeed dead, and the body was cold. But the fruit inside hasn't changed much. Did it fail? To be on the safe side, Chaos intends to wait another 20 minutes. A tributary of gold fell from the air, and finally turned into a golden sofa suspended 1 foot on the ground. Chaos sat up and took out a cigar to light it, and waited slowly. Crocodile scratched his head and sat on the sofa. Time goes back a few minutes ago. Sabodi Archipelago. Marine Station. Marshal Sengoku, the Golden Emperor, appeared on Post Island. A signal soldier entered the office panting with intelligence. Go now. Sengoku, who was working on documents, raised his head sharply and walked directly out of the office holding the coat and cloak on the chair. In just 5 or 6 minutes, the warship left the port. At the same time, other forces with information channels almost knew the whereabouts of Chaos. What is the Golden Emperor doing? It's been half an hour. The transparent man is dead early. When the screen returned to the scene, many pirates waited with Chaos for half an hour. Everyone is like a fool. I don't understand what the Golden Emperor is doing at all. However, most of the eyes were on the goddess body, which was the Golden Mountain close at hand. But even if they were greedy enough to drool, these pirates did not dare to do it. It looks like it failed. Chaos had already smoked 3 cigars, and although he was ready to fail, he still had a little luck. There is a little regret in my heart. After all, half an hour passed. Gently waved the golden orb to form a tributary and returned to the embrace of the goddess. Goa Terrence was really cool, and the fruits were scattered all over and kept intact. Go for a drink first, I guess it will be in trouble soon. The golden sofa was suspended in the air and flew towards other streets. For so long, I believe some forces have known his whereabouts. First look at the Gyuki snake gods. If they are too strong, they will withdraw directly. If they are sure, they will fight. Chaos knows his situation very well, and is completely walking on a tightrope, so he has to be cautious and do what he can. Again, arrogance must also be confidently arrogant. Fate, first. In the sight of many pirates, the goddess disappeared into the sky, while the Golden Emperor and the Desert King came to the East Area Street and directly entered a tavern. The golden sofa also soared into the sky and disappeared. Entering the tavern swaggeringly, the hall that was a little noisy at first fell silent. Huan. Welcome. Excuse me, what do I need? The boss personally received him, trembling, not knowing whether it was excited or scared. Chaos has clearly been recognized. There is a newspaper on the counter. Moreover, the news of the appearance of the Golden Emperor had spread all over the island long ago. Whether it's food or drink, as long as the most expensive. For the consumption of everyone in the room, lousy pays. Chaos snapped his fingers, and a crisp sound of jingle bells rang outside the tavern, forming a golden tributary into the hall, and began to crackle and fall on the table. All are gold coins. However, the gold coins are a bit fancy, with the portrait of Chaos printed on the front and back, which is lifelike and indifferent and handsome. Gudong. Whether it was drinking in the hall or a pirate peeping outside, watching the gold coins falling on the table, they all swallowed and started to move. The sound of every gold coin falling on the table is the most beautiful sound in the world. The tavern owner and waiter were all flushed with excitement. Is it enough? Gold coins piled up on the table, and Chaos spit out a smoke ring while pinching his cigar. Lord is not bad for money. Howang. Enough. Enough, go get out the longest vintage wine in the cellar, and make the most expensive ingredients in the store at the same time, come on. The boss yelled at several waiters, the customer is God. And this one is the father of God. Master Golden Emperor has any more instructions. The boss is like a dogleg, with a face full of heart. Chaos waved his hand, seeing and hearing that the color covering more than half of the island was viewing. The waiter moved quickly, and brought all kinds of sweet wines and delicacies, almost treating Chaos as a reborn parent. After all, Chaos is very generous. Each waiter has 10 gold coins as a tip, which is pure gold with a high density and is free of impurities. Even just one is equivalent to millions of Baileys. While Chaos and Crocodile were enjoying the delicious food, a pirate ship full of patches docked at the port. The flying skull and crossbones flag is a bullhead of unknown breed. Boss, we are rich. A group of pirates disembarked, headed by a 6-meter-tall guy with a patched mace on his waist and a thick-looking nostril with a nose ring. At first glance, he knew that he was a simple-minded man with well-developed limbs. Buffalo Arquette offers a reward of 220 million. The captain of the Buffalo Pirate Group is also famous on the surrounding islands. It's just that this great name is not full of evil, but a pronoun for honest and even stupid. Because this guy never kills, robs civilians or merchant ships. He just attacks some pirates who kill, rob, and is a very principled pirate. The civilians on the surrounding islands are not afraid. Because of this, the Buffalo Pirates are often so poor that they can be seen from the clothes worn by the pirates, and the tatters are all patches. The pirate ship is also repaired, just like various large band-aids. The reason why Buffalo Arquette's reward is so high is that he hammered some of the Marines who bullied civilians to death, including several rear admiral. Even an ordinary vice admiral who arrested him was almost killed by a hammer. Don't look like a silly look, but his combat effectiveness is very strong. How to get rich? Arquette blinked his big eyes, and his head didn't turn a bit with the sound of earn. Boss, I just heard the news that the Golden Emperor is on the island. As long as we catch him, we will be able to eat spicy food and become the richest person in the world. A subordinate of Arquette was very excited, but recently he often heard the reputation of the Golden Emperor. Unexpectedly, it was all effortless to break through the iron shoes and find no place to find it, and I encountered it on Post Island. There are discussions on the street now, and it's hard to know or not. Is he a bad guy? Arquette stared at the bull's eyes. He only killed the bad guys who killed, robbed, and bullied others. This was his last stubbornness. Probably. Xiao Yi scratched his head, not very clear. The other little guys also had a dumb look, and it was a miracle that the boat was not annihilated. As everyone knows, there are actually only 9 people in the entire ship, plus Buffalo Arquette himself. Let's ask. Don't we know? A pirate wearing a hat full of stitches, his brain flashed. Yes. Just ask. Then let's go. 10 minutes later, outside the pub. Isn't this the idiot Buffalo Arquette? I haven't shown up on Post Island for several days. Today is really a rare visitor. This is Arquette, the famous silly cow. It's him. Don't look at him so tall, he is actually very stupid. There were a lot of pirates or civilians around. Looking at the Buffalo Arquette, it was no surprise. What is this silly cow doing? In the eyes of the crowd, Arquette took 8 younger brothers into the tavern, looking around looking for something. Boss, he is the Golden Emperor. As the IQ on board, Xiao Lu pointed to Chaos, who was elegantly tasting steak and drinking red wine. Arquette turned his head immediately, as if even the ground was trembling as he walked. The 6-meter-high body was stuck there, blocking the sunlight coming through the window. The 8 younger brothers followed behind, swallowing all the delicious food on the table. Arquette's reaction was even greater, and the swallowing sound could be heard even outside the tavern. Chaos slowly put down his knife and fork, swaying the red wine glass with his right hand and scanning the big man up and down. The clothes worn from head to toe are all patches, even the mace worn around the waist is especially stitched up. It is not so much a mace as a stick, and only the spiked fangs on it are left. The next sparse 2 or 3. Poverty. Silly. This is the first impression Arquette gave to Chaos. Looking at the little girl behind this big guy, he was wearing torn clothes that were stitched and patched everywhere, and he was constantly swallowing saliva and staring at the food on the dining table. The individual saliva has been unable to control the flow on the chest. It's too stupid. It's also a kind of skill to be such a big guy mixed to this point. Crocodile was taken aback for a moment. Are you the Golden Emperor? It was very difficult for Arquette to look away from the food, looking at the urn of Chaos and asking. Cuckoo. There was a voice from the fat belly, and Arquette blushed in a straightforward manner, feeling very ashamed. Any questions? Chaos's face is a little weird. This guy has no deterrence at all. Even if he grows up to 6 meters tall, it is 3 times his size. Did you kill a lot of people? Xiao Lu wiped off his saliva and questioned Chaos with a righteous face. Like a partner of justice. Then what? Chaos looked at these people like a fool. Boss, he admitted. Sure enough, it's an evil guy. Several pirates immediately pointed at Chaos Qianfu, each holding a stubborn weapon on alert. The more Chaos looked, the more he felt that these guys were mentally retarded. It is simply inexplicable. In that case, die. Arquette glared wide and drew out the mace repaired by the seam between his waist, and quickly dyed it into jet black and swept away towards Chaos. Good guy. He was still silly and stupid 1 second, and then turned into a wild beast in the next second. Compared with the previous one, the aura was like a broken world. This rod will be alive before it arrives. If it is entangled with thunder and lightning, it is a thunder 8 trigrams. Boom. A violent wind swept across the hall, tables, chairs and benches were instantly crushed, and many pirates were lifted out to vomit blood, and even Crocodile's expression changed. It's quite capable. The entire surface of the restaurant was shattered, and when the dust storm dissipated, the indifferent voice of Chaos came. How can it be? The little Lias who had already backed away were stunned as they watched Chaos' entire right arm in black and gold grabbing the mace, sitting on the stool without taking a step, dancing wildly with black vertical hair and gold earrings. When the golden goose feather coat flew down behind him, Chaos pinched the mace with his 5 fingers and moved it away. Seeing the blushing Arquette gently pushed, the latter exited uncontrollably. His big face was a little surprised. Boom. The broken roof was pierced, and a giant crashed on the ground. Everyone felt the ground shake. When the dust dissipated, a golden warrior on one knee stood up with a mace in his hand. Meters high. A pair of golden eyes turned and walked towards Arquette. If you beat him, I will forgive you for the offense. Chaos casually waved his right hand. The golden warrior blasted and shot. His left foot was deep in the mud, holding the golden mace in both hands, tearing the eardrum and rushing towards Arquette. Watch me beat him. Arquette stared at the bull's eye. His hand was wrapped in a ragged mace again, and he was directly on the front. He is confident in his brute force. Click. The 2 maces collided in horror, and the air pressure spread again, lifting the goose feather coat and earrings of Chaos, and also breaking the crumbling tavern even more. Boss, change the table again. A hole in the roof dropped a tributary of gold, which successively became a gold dining table and 2 gold chairs. Yes. The boss and the waiters hiding in the ruined wall swallowed with fear. I don't know if it's luck, the kitchen is still well preserved. Boss, do you want me to do it myself? Crocodile sat on the golden chair, watching the golden warriors and Arquette fighting on the streets of the tavern, a little eager to move. Not in a hurry. Chaos leaned on Erlang's legs. The golden warrior has not been used since it was developed. This looks like a pirate, just to give it a try. Boom. The stone streets and roads were cracking and spreading, and the 2 maces collided, forming a powerful shockwave of brute force. Many pirates retreated cursingly, but they did not leave. This time the collision with the golden warrior fell into the wind, retreating more than 10 steps, leaving footprints, and the golden mace was also full of cracks. It's quite capable. Chaos in the tattered tavern flirted with gold earrings, and the opponent's brute force and armed color were very strong. But, to the naked eye, the golden warrior's majestic figure, which is golden all over, transformed from head to toe into black and gold. Chaos also used armed color. The ground under his feet exploded, and the golden warrior turned into black gold. He came to Arquette and attacked with a mace. The billowing breath seemed to squeeze the heart, making it hard to breathe. Arquette did not flinch, and swept out with a roar. In an instant, the dull explosion spread, and Arquette's simple face flushed, and he held a stalemate for a moment. The black and golden mace blasted on his chest with his mace, and blood spurted out of his throat. The 6-meter-high huge body flew out, and exploded through the houses, and a large cloud of dust directly covered half of the street. The golden warrior walked along, dragging the black and golden mace into the ruins of the ruined wall. His expressionless face was like a fighter without emotion. I won't lose. Pushing away the broken sawdust on his body, Arquette wiped off the blood from the corner of his mouth, holding a mace and looking at the golden warrior who came by, rushed out in an unusually angry manner and launched the attack first. The 2 maces collided again. Arquette's expression was painful, and his entire arm was trembling. Puff. Before Arquette could retreat, the golden warrior hit his left uppercut with a blow, causing Arquette to bend down and vomit blood, which also had a tooth. Without giving Arquette a chance, the golden warrior put his knee on Arquette's chin, and the surface burst in a radius of 30 meters. Arquette couldn't control his body and began to leave the ground. At this moment, the golden warrior quickly rotated his body and kicked Arquette's chest with a whirling blow. The sound pierced through the air for a while, and Arquette turned into a Changhong and dashed all the way, and most of the street disappeared. Bah! Getting up from the ruins, Arquette shook his head, spit out the dirt and dust from his mouth, and looked at the golden warrior who strode with his hands. His eyes began to turn red. The entire majestic figure began to swell, and the simple and big face began to squirm. Especially the forehead grew a pair of corners, the upper body grew thick hair, and the mouth was roaring with sound waves. Appeared. Zone Niu fruit buffalo form. The transformed buffalo Arquette is not easy to provoke. Both the attack power and the defense power are extremely pervert. Even if the bullet is shot on it, it is useless. So smart? Otherwise, do you think Buffalo Arquette's 220 million reward came from? The transformed Arquette can even hit Marine Vice Admiral. The pirates who watched the theater in the distance whispered, although Buffalo Arquette is very silly, but that brute force and combat power are not bragging. Most people can't hold two sticks. Interesting. The food in the restaurant had been brought back again, and Chaos used his knowledge to check while eating. The other party turned into a human beast shaped, and his aura had far exceeded the price of 220 million. But still not enough. The Golden Warrior went faster and faster, and finally ran up and shot out, and it was a stick when he came to Arquette. Arquette still did not evade, and his body shape after the transformation came to 7 meters, 1 meter taller than the Golden Warrior. That huge body was full of oppressiveness, and he held the mace in his right hand and blasted out in one fell swoop. The power is at least several times higher than before. The powerful shock wave spread, and both sides took a step backwards. The Golden Warrior turned around and it was a stick. Arquette spouted 2 air currents from the tip of his nose. The mace stood in front of him to resist, and then clenched his left fist tightly and wrapped it in an armed color, fully interpreting its infinite power. The Golden Warrior didn't hide, and blasted out with his fists. Boom. The ground surface exploded under the feet of the two of them. All kinds of gravel and soil shot off, and the dense cobweb cracks spread to hundreds of meters in the blink of an eye. Arquette roared, holding the mace high and falling in amazement. The Golden Warrior also held the mace and swung it out in one fell swoop, without even thinking about dodge. The burning sky exploded into the sky, and hundreds of meters of pits continued to spread and spread. The Golden Warrior's feet were sunken in the ground, and the entire black and gold head was sunken by more than half. But Arquette tilted his head and protruding eyes. Even if his head was covered by the armed color, he did not resist, pushing across the ground with a cracking sound, leaving a huge gully, lying at the end with blood all over his face. The whole head buzzed up to the world and not to the ground, and blood was constantly bleeding in the 7 orifices. Climbed several times in a row without standing up. The Golden Warrior no longer had this obstacle, his feet were pulled out of the mud, his sunken head returned to normal, and he still walked towards Arquette coldly. Ahem. Arquette kept coughing blood with both hands, shaking his head to stand up, shaking like drunk, and finally barely stood firm. I won't lose. I have to say that zone is terrible. Arquette looked at the Golden Warrior approaching, and the dizziness in his head quickly passed. Although the mace didn't know where it flew, he still had a fist. When the Golden Warrior approached, Arquette threw a punch. This punch made the Golden Warrior's cheeks sunken to form a fist mark, and even the upper body was bent down. But the Golden Warrior quickly got up and gave Arquette a right uppercut. With blood and teeth spurting, Arquette walked a few steps sideways like a crab, turning back, the green veins beating on his forehead. He was very dissatisfied. The Golden Warrior's cheeks returned to normal, the mace in his hand blended into his arm to make his body a little bit taller, and he walked towards Arquette with his bare hands. The two of them stared face to face. Arquette spouted 2 air currents from his nostrils, clenched his fist wrapped in his arms and raised it high, indestructible with another right uppercut. The Golden Warrior still did not evade, letting his fist fall on his face, and as the ground around his feet turned up, half of the Golden Warrior's face was sunken. But he straightened up quickly, making a fist and giving Arquette a right uppercut. And Arquette is also hard-spirited, so he doesn't hide. Blood and teeth spurted, and half of Arquette's face was deformed. He walked a few steps sideways and became dizzy and stubbornly resisted. There is no doubt that Arquette has a bad temper. Shaking his head to restore clarity, looking at the Golden Warrior standing in front of him, punched his abdomen, all sinking deeply. Then the Golden Warrior also punched Arquette in the abdomen. This time, Arquette's body was lifted off the ground, and even his heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys seemed to be spit out, forming a burst of energy behind him and rushing into the sky. Finally, it flew out uncontrollably, smashed to the ground and hugged his body, constantly retching. The face is green. Boom boom boom. The Golden Warrior's black and golden face was full of streamlined texture, and it was completely cold to push away the ruined walls that were blocking the road, standing in front of Arquette with heavy steps, condescendingly indifferent. While Arquette was holding his belly, his face flushed, gritted his teeth and stood up, his bull's eyes bulging with bloodshot eyes. He still refuses. Knocking his fist boiled with his armed color, Arquette exhausted his full strength to hit a right uppercut, and the Golden Warrior just stood and let Arquette hit. For a time, a powerful force impacted, and the Golden Warrior was sinking deep into the mud. All the surrounding ground burst and cocked, and a shockwave formed a large fan-shaped goby. The big black and gold hand came out from the pit, and the Golden Warrior's entire head deformed, but as he stood up, he returned to normal again. Bring it on. Arquette's face was full of blood and his chest was raised, and his entire body turned his arms around to form the thickest defense. You punch me, it's fair. It depends on who can't hold it. The Golden Warrior did not show mercy either, stepped out with his left foot and plunged into the mud, clenched his right fist and hit Arquette's side face in one fell swoop. Puff. At the moment his fist kissed his cheek, Arquette's entire face became distorted, another tooth spurted out with blood, his entire head hummed, unable to control his body to fly out, and his entire face fell into it. They are all red and swollen. The Golden Warrior blocked the sun and stood in front of Arquette without attacking. After resting for 20 or 30 seconds, Arquette got up again. Roared with a left uppercut. Then the Golden Warrior also gave Arquette a left uppercut. Many pirates in the distance convulsed. These two were just like that. You punch me and beat each other? See who can't hold it first. This is better. As expected of Buffalo Arquette, IQ is really domineering. What do you know? This is a man's fight. It's really exciting. Although Buffalo Arquette will lose, I admire him. This is the real man. It's just too stupid. The Golden Warrior was obviously just a puppet controlled by the Golden Emperor, and it could be healed even if it was broken, but it was just like the Golden Warrior. It must be defeated fairly. Then go to the Golden Emperor. Quack. Silly. On a house in the distance, I don't know when there is a man in a black trench coat with a small beard standing, with a fencing weapon slung around his waist, watching the scene where you punch me in a childish fight, cold hum. It seems that the heads of 220 million people can be easily removed, but the Golden Emperor. A pair of narrow eyes looked at the tattered tavern, full of greed and grin. But at this moment, Chaos suddenly tilted his head and shook the red wine glass with his right hand, looking at him with a smile. There seemed to be sparks in the air. A pair of eyes were greedy and cruel, and a pair of eyes were full of playfulness and contempt, and obviously they didn't put the other side in their eyes. Paperman Yilungo, Paramecia. Paper fruit ability. Although he is a pirate hunter, he is offering a reward of 360 million yuan. He is a brutal mob. Crocodile is like a repeater, following Chaos's gaze to the paperman. Lao Sha, you are really useful. Chaos retracted his gaze. The opponent's hostility was strong, but too weak. Crocodile is worthy of praise. It's just Du Niang. Humph. Crocodile curled his lips and snorted coldly, even slightly proud. He didn't say that he knew all the pirates who offered a reward of more than 100 million Baileys, but there were still 60 to 70%. Of course, I learned it all through the news, not like this man who watched and forgot. Little did he know that Chaos was too lazy to remember. In his opinion, they were all small people, not worthy of him to remember. Boss, prepare some fruits and a piece of black cloth. Chaos rubbed his fingers and turned red, lit his cigar and snapped his fingers at the boss not far away. Yes. The boss greeted the waiter quickly, and he began to get busy again. Although the tavern was destroyed, the cellar was not. Even if he travels all over the island, he still has to find the things that Lord Golden Emperor needs. And the battle on the street outside, as time passed, Arquette finally couldn't handle it. Half an hour later, the Golden Warrior's whole body was beaten with pits and pits, but in a blink of an eye, he recovered as before, without pain, fatigue, and emotion. And Arquette, now with a swollen nose, is no longer human. Even if it is a zone-capable person, who has super endurance and resilience, it can't hold it now. At least he had received hundreds of punches, and his teeth were all spit out. Bang bang. The Golden Warrior punched his abdomen, and then grabbed Arquette's head on top of his knees. With tears and nose sprayed, he finally had another sidekick in the middle of his chest. Arquette flew out, leaving a gully, and lay on his back. The end returned to normal from the human beast type, just a few breaths away. The sunken part of the Golden Warrior returned to normal, still walking towards Arquette. It's full of elegance and metallic coldness. Arquette turned over and his face was pale, his hands on the ground could only see the feet of the Golden Warrior coming over, and he did not stand up after several attempts. He was defeated. I was defeated in the fair with one punch and one kick. This is his first failure so far, boss. Kill us if you want to kill, and you are not allowed to shoot the boss. Several figures stopped the Golden Warrior on the way forward, and it was Xiao Lu and the others. Although his face was horrified, he opened his arms very firmly in an attempt to stop the Golden Warrior. 220 million heads, I want them. An unexpected accident occurred. The paper man Ilungo, who had been watching the show, disappeared on the roof for some time. When he appeared, he had already appeared in front of Buffalo Arquette. He pulled out the fencing weapon slung around his waist and faced off. Kit's neck was chopped off. He has been waiting for this opportunity. It takes no effort to get the head of the pirate with 220 million rewards. After killing Buffalo Arquette, the next one is the Golden Emperor. Boss. Damn it. Mean. Xiao Lu and the others turned around full of anger and rushed towards Arquette, but their speed was simply too late. Time seemed to slow down at this moment, and Arquette did not have the slightest fear in the face of a fatal crisis, but instead his face was bloody and stubborn. Ding bang. The golden storm tore the ground, and the Golden Warrior appeared between the lightning and flint. The entire right arm turned into a blade, firmly blocking the paperman's fencing, and a pair of black and golden eyes were cold. I dare to intervene in the battle, you don't have to go. The Golden Warrior opened his mouth and spoke for the first time. The sound was like a tractor stuck in his throat, without feeling any emotions. Some are just dead and metallic. The paperman changed his color slightly, and he took the initiative to stand 10 meters away, fencing with a sword in his hand, and he was full of disdain. The paperman squinted at the tavern without paying attention at all. Boom boom boom. But as soon as the words of the paper fell, there was a sudden blast from the head, and then the surrounding ground continued to bombard. All kinds of mud and gravel pierced through the air, billowing smoke and dust suddenly obscured all vision. When everything dissipated, 10 Golden Warriors knelt on one knee in the pothole, raised their heads and stood up and stepped out of the pothole. As they walked, the gold flowing in their right hand formed various swords, guns, swords and halberds. This is, all are Golden Warriors. One can defeat Buffalo Arquette, and now there are 10 more. All the pirates in the distance took a breath, couldn't help but look up at the blue sky, and then watched the 10 Golden Warriors walk towards the paperman in majesty. Thinking about the pressure, you know how terrifying it is. Huh. I'm not that idiot. The paperman was still very calm. Instead of flinching, he took the initiative and rushed out to attack the nearest Golden Warrior. The fencing pierced out like a lightning bolt wrapped in an armed color, and it pierced the Golden Warrior all at once. It's useless. The metal face of the Golden Warrior remained unchanged. He held the golden axe in his right hand and slashed down the mountain. The paperman's face was full of contempt, ready to pull out the fencing sword and dodge. He wouldn't be as idiot as Buffalo Arquette, not only didn't hide, but also took the initiative to get beaten up. But the next moment his face changed, because the Golden Warrior's entire chest became one body, directly jamming his fencing. Throwing the fencing between the sparks and flints, the paperman fluttered and withdrew. The golden axe hit the ground, tearing a ravine of more than 30 meters all the way. Immediately after the sunlight was blocked, the paperman looked at the 9 Golden Warriors who were surrounding him, holding various golden weapons, standing in a condescending position as if he was about to hack him to death. But, rumble. Cold light continued to explode. Under the encirclement and attack of the 9 Golden Warriors, the paperman put his hands in kabuto and dodged in the crack very gracefully, all evading the attack. It's useless. I'm a paperman who ate paramecia paper fruit. This kind of attack won't hurt me at all. As long as there is wind, I can drift with the wind. The paperman is very confident in his dodge ability. His body is like a light and fluttering sheet of paper. Before any attack comes, a wind pressure will be formed, and he can dodge along the wind pressure at will, which is a very deep dodge ability. Unless he is fixed like paper and pierced with a sharp weapon, he can dodge any attack. This is only the most basic application of paper fruit. A reward of 360 million Baileys is definitely not a weak one. Ding chang. Just as the paperman was holding his face proudly, the 10 Golden Warriors suddenly burst into soft tributaries, forcibly shrouded the surrounding area, and entangled and swept up like several small tornadoes. It's like a big tornado that has become a succession of heaven and earth. The paperman looked shocked, and was briefly curled up in it, leaving only his head outside. As for the neck, everything was in the golden pillar. The most fancy thing is that a golden snow lotus bloomed at the top of the gold pillar, and a lot of gold powder was sprayed out, and many pirates in the distance were soaked. It's gold powder, put it up quickly. Get rich. The pirate thugs were ecstatic, and they didn't know where to find the pots, pans or sacks, trying to fill all the scattered gold powder. Damn it. The paperman panicked. He didn't expect that the 10 golden warriors would suddenly change, and they would hate them forever. Breaking free with force, except for the movement of the head, it is impossible to move below the neck at all. Dong dong. The golden warrior standing in front of Arquette turned around and walked to the paperman. The metal face was full of coldness. A reward of 360 million is offered. How did you live until now? You have the ability to let me go. The paperman was composure, he was just careless. I don't think I have lost. The golden warrior didn't say anything. This guy was probably lost by his previous record. In fact, every strong man has problems like this kind of arrogance. Including chaos. This is not an exception, it is a normal thing. Many powerhouses are planted on arrogance. After all, there are so many weird devil fruits in this world. Maybe they will be blinded by geese all day long. It deserves it. Although he died unjustly, but who told him to do it by himself? B. Not everyone can pretend. The key is to pretend to be in front of an enemy who is stronger than yourself. Isn't this the light in the toilet to find shit? The end of the paperman now is a living written textbook. Ignoring the roar of the paperman, the golden soldier walked into the restaurant and grabbed the various fruits and black cloth that the boss found, soared to the sky on the golden snow lotus, and threw it in. Then they crashed to the ground in front of Arquette. Xiao Lu and several people hurriedly grabbed their weapons and swallowed. Your honesty has successfully attracted my attention, and I hope to see you in New World in the future. This mace is given to you. The golden warrior's right arm fell off, forming a golden mace and slammed in front of Arquette with a thud, with the 3 characters of Golden Emperor engraved on it. Chaos didn't intend to kill this silly. There are too few people on the sea like this simple naive person. This kind of character makes him unpleasant. And this guy has a pretty good reputation. Seeing that he spends a lot of time with him, let it go. You let me go. Arquette was supported by several younger brothers, and looked back from the mace that Jin Cancan smashed into the hole, looking at the golden warrior very puzzled. It's just that my nose is blue and my face is swollen, and my speech is a little leaky. Get out. The golden warrior turned and looked at the golden snow lotus. The paperman had been swallowed. Boss. Let's withdraw first. Xiao Lu sucked his nose, and with the other 3 people struggled to lift the mace. His face could not contain the joy. This mace is 4 meters long, with a minimum value of 300 million Baileys. But it's heavy. But they got rich. You let me go today, and I will repay you in the future. Arquette murmured, although he was silly, but also a little stupid. It can be seen that Entubao still understands. He is not an ungrateful buffalo. The golden warrior waved his back, and immediately the buffalo pirates began to retreat. It's just that many pirates followed, obviously all eyeing the golden mace. Chaos didn't intend to take care of it anymore. It was already his gift to spare the other person's fate. This was Arquette's relatively silly character. If he were to be a sinister and slippery pirate, he would definitely be inseparable. It's up to Arquette to survive or not. At this moment, inside the golden snow lotus, the paperman has been riddled with holes and pierced into hedgehogs. The black lacquered space around it is covered with fruits, and the gold walls all around are covered with black cloth. There are no gaps. Chaos is sipping red wine in the restaurant. If it fails this time, I will use sea stone or armed color next time. Or maybe these methods are actually useful, but the success rate is relatively low. If you try a few more times, you may run into dead mice. The Golden Emperor is doing this. Not sure. The Golden Emperor had smothered the transparent man Goa Trends alive before. What a hatred this is. The Golden Emperor is really cruel and cruel. Many pirates shuddered. The Golden Emperor liked to suffocate the enemy. Isn't that just burying alive and suffocating the enemy to death? You know that suffocation is very painful. The methods are so cruel. Of course, some pirates frowned and thought. After all, the Golden Warrior just lost a lot of things in it, like a piece of black cloth, and a lot of fruits. Could these be buried with the paperman? No need. Are there any rituals to kill people now? Failed again. Half an hour later, the huge golden snow lotus exploded on the street, all lifted off and disappeared into the sky, leaving only the dead paperman Yilungo and some fruit black cloth. Chaos drank the red wine in his glass. Fortunately, the expectations are not very high, so I am not too disappointed. Boss. What do you call a failure again? Crocodile's curiosity was raised again. First it was the transparent man Goya Trents, and now it was the paper man Ilungo, who intuitively told him that there was something Chaos was hiding from him. Otherwise, why killing someone is so troublesome is totally unnecessary. Although this man is sometimes disgusting and funny, these two times are obviously different. Want to know? Chaos raised his eyebrows. You don't want to forget it. Crocodile wanted to know in his heart, but it was impossible for him of Tsunere to speak out in person. Chaos didn't bother to say that he still didn't trust Crocodile very much. This guy has the potential to be an anti-bone boy. There are some things that can't be pierced. So I just changed the subject and said, a good night's sleep today, I'm afraid it will be unsafe tomorrow. Chaos reignited a cigar, smoking it while looking out to the ragged street, many pirates staring at him in secret. To be precise, staring at the golden dining table and the chair under the buttocks. Crocodile's face turned dark, and he snorted slightly to express his dissatisfaction, but it was a pity that Chaos had no eggs. As the sun sets, Chaos took Crocodile around the island after eating. This time, no pirate with long eyes came out to make trouble. After all, even the transparent man Goya Trents and the paper man Olengo are dead. Buffalo Arquette was also a miserable defeat, but he was lucky enough to get his life back and got a golden mace, which not only did not suffer a loss, but also earned it. The beating was not in vain. However, with Post Island as the center, more and more pirate ships are approaching quickly on all sides of the sea, including a warship. I have to say that the current value of Chaos is also a kind of ostentation in some respects. It is estimated that no matter where it appears in the future, it can bring economic benefits to the place. Those who come to hunt down Chaos, whether it is a pirate or a marine, or some kingdom forces, etc., you should always eat and drink Lazard on the island. And this is money. Yoshihara Street, the busiest street on Post Island. It's not so much a street, it's an area. The sun dared to set, and this area was already dimly lit by people. The business in red light districts, pubs, bathing centers, gambling halls, etc. has just begun. It's time to enjoy one-stop service. At this time, Chaos was wearing a golden goose feather coat, and finally took a sigh of cigar in his mouth. After exhaling the smoke ring, he looked at the brightly lit plaque in front of him. The pink lights around him were extremely ambiguous. No matter at the door or upstairs, there are many staff in cool clothes, but the noisy atmosphere in the past has become very quiet now. Because whether it is the staff or the customers, the sight is on the handsome young man at the door. There is expectation and tension. Especially those staff shivering in the evening breeze, none of them can suppress the surprise. The news that the Golden Emperor had acted generously had spread throughout the island long ago. It can be seen from the tavern during the day. Although the tavern was turned into ruins due to the relationship of the Golden Emperor, the boss made a lot of gold, and so did the waiters. The tips given by the Golden Emperor can give them extravagance for a year or a half. Lao Sha, you're going to have fun tonight, I'll treat you. Chaos snapped his fingers and walked into this drunken brothel at the pace of becoming rich. Crocodile is F***king at heart. This guy said to take him to a good place, it turned out to be such a place. This is something he didn't expect. Lord Golden Emperor, welcome. As soon as Chaos walked through the door, there was an old bastard wearing a floral headpiece. Except for the murder weapon, the overall score was only average. But those yin-yang yan-yan behind him are different. Even the Oran who was difficult to kiss Yoshizawa appeared. The Golden Emperor is a big customer. If you don't catch it, it will be thundered. Enter my little brother well, money is not a problem. Chaos's expression was calm, giving people a feeling of being familiar with the road. As soon as he fell outside, he remembered the jingle of metal crashing, and there were a lot of exclamations and noise. Because a lot of gold coins flew in from the gate, suspended in the air in the hall, everyone swallowed. Take these tips. The rain of gold coins began to fall, and all the geishas were wet. What are you doing? If anyone didn't serve Lord Golden Emperor and Lord Desert King well today, I will take her skin off. The old bastard's face turned red, and the tip she gave was her income for several months. Sure enough, it is rich and powerful. I heard that the Golden Emperor also has a golden mountain. And then think of the rumors on the sea that as long as he gets the Golden Emperor, he can become the richest person in the world. Thinking of this, the old bastard started to restless deep in his eyes. Master Jindy, please go up to the third floor, our Oran here is. Damn it, isn't it just rich? What a haughty thing. So arrogant. I wish I had so much money. Many customers looked at Chaos and Crocodile who were guarded by Zhongmei on the third floor, with envy in their eyes. Of course there are many people with other ideas. As long as you catch the Golden Emperor, you can become the richest person in the world. The lethality of this sentence is a dimensionality reduction blow. Outside, I don't know how many eyes are staring at the brothel. But these can't bother Chaos. All kinds of hot springs, drinking flower wine, and watching operas are always floating. Unknowingly the moon was hidden in the clouds. Chaos was lying on a big bed, with 5 geishas wearing seduction suits beside him, massaging Chaos from head to toe. And Chaos seemed to be asleep, breathing evenly and closing his eyes. Master Golden Emperor. The Oran wore long waist-length green hair, and 2 slender fingers rubbed Chaos's temples gently. Her current movement is knee pillow. He opened his red lips and yelled carefully, but he didn't get an answer from Chaos. Master Golden Emperor? The Oran yelled again several times. The remaining 4 geishas all looked at each other. The original gentle eyes no longer existed, instead they became very greedy and cold. It should be impossible to wake up. HMPH, there are so many medicines in those wines that even 10 elephants can't hold it. Is this really the Golden Emperor? Just catch him and become the richest man in the world. We are rich. Girls, good job. A secret door was opened, and the old bastard walked out with a few fierce thugs, and looked at Chaos who was lying on the bed unconscious, his face full of excitement. Mom, the task is complete. No man can resist our charm. Several geishas were very arrogant with their white shins. Dressed in a light gauze, it is indeed a tempting landscape to show it. Well done. You 5 made great contributions this time. I believe Master Stussy will definitely reward you with a big prize. The old bastard smiled very happily. She did not expect the Golden Emperor to appear on Post Island, and she did not expect to come to the red light district under her jurisdiction. The most important thing is that now she has captured the Golden Emperor alive without any effort. Mom. Now the Golden Emperor is in our hands. As long as we control him, we can become the richest person in the world. Why do we have to work for that Stussy? One of the geishas, who seemed the youngest, plucked up the courage to speak his mind. No woman wants to be a geisha to accompany those stinky men. She doesn't want to continue this kind of day. Stella. What are you talking about? The old bastard's expression suddenly became tense. Fortunately, everyone present was her confidant. Otherwise, if this sentence were passed to Master Stussy, Stella's body might be exposed on the street the next day. Others don't know the background of that adult, doesn't she yet? That is the spy agency of the world government. Who can compete with the world government on this sea? Mom. I think Stella is right. As long as the Golden Emperor is in our hands, there will be endless gold, enough for us to live. Mom. I don't want to accompany those stinky men either. Except for the Oran, the 4 geishas all spoke their minds. They were arrested and sold to this island by a slave group since they were young. If it weren't for the old bastards to buy them, their lives would be even more ugly and pitiful. Although they are geishas now, the old bastards never take them harshly, nor do they use them as a money-making tool. He is a very conscientious old bastard in this industry. It's too late. The old bastard took out a lady's cigarette, lit it and sighed. I have notified Master Stussy that she has come to Post Island. But don't worry, you have captured the Golden Emperor this time, and I will definitely plead with Master Stussy to get you out of this cage. The old bastard looked at the ceiling. This building had restrained her for most of her life. When she was young, she had thought of resisting but failed. After more than 10 years of getting along, she didn't want Stella to be trapped in this cage like her. The room quieted down suddenly, and Stella shrugged their heads. Outside they were hugged by the front and back, but in the dead of night, no one understood their suffering. This is the sorrow of the weak. To blame, I can only blame this world. Luck is really bad. I can't do anything to get a good rest. As expected, Master Stussy, the Queen of Joy in most of the world's red light districts. It seems that anyone who is in this line has nothing to do with her. The sudden self-talking was no less than a thunderbolt in this quiet room. Everyone looked at Chaos, who didn't know when to sit up on the bed, and then turned pale and turned pale. Knee pillow continues, massage continues. Chaos beckoned to Stella and Oran, lazily looking harmless. Stella and Oran, who had originally wanted to escape, did not dare to act rashly and could only continue as Chaos said, because a hole suddenly broke through the wall, and the swords and halberds were aimed at everyone. The old bastard and several thugs were also very clever, standing in place with a layer of cold sweat on their foreheads. You must know that the transparent man and the paper man just died during the day, but they are mobs offering hundreds of millions of rewards, and they still have self-knowledge. How is my little brother? Kaios pillowed on the fragrant thigh of the Oran, beckoned Stella to take a cigar out, lit a pinch of his index finger and thumb, and then squinted his eyes while inhaling a smoke ring. Also, when will Stussy arrive? Kaios is very interested in this woman. In the original book, The age of this woman is a mystery, but from the perspective of calling Big Mom is Linlin, it should be about the same age as Big Mom, but after more than 20 years, it is still a flower of Oni-san. Comparing with Crane is simply two extremes. Unexpectedly, this woman is already operating the red light district now. Even if she has not yet become the king of the underground world, it is probably not much different. There is also the identity of a CPO. Chaos really didn't expect to meet such a female gangster if he casually relieved those girls shivering in the cold wind. Master Stussy will arrive by tomorrow morning at the latest. The old bastard didn't stand up, and honestly explained it. I know how to judge the situation. The main thing is that Stussy is not very far from Post Island, just on this route. Snapped. Chaos snapped his fingers, and the knives, guns, swords and halberds on everyone's heads merged into a 3-meter-high golden warrior. With his big hands, he slammed through the next door and entered another room, where he could vaguely see Crocodile who had fallen asleep. The golden warrior grabbed the back collar, dragged it to Chaos and threw it on the ground, and then faced the old bastard and his group. Wake him up. Yes. The old bastard quickly greeted a thug, and after giving Crocodile the antidote, Crocodile woke up in half a minute. He was very vigilant when he was just awake. When he saw Chaos lying on the beauty's knees, smoking and looking at him contemptuously, his face flushed. If this hasn't reacted yet, it can only be said that he has maintained his innocence. Still too young. Chaos shook his head slightly, then straightened up and waved to the Oran, as well as the old bastard and a few thugs. You can go out now. All of them were stunned. Obviously, they didn't expect Chaos to let them go so easily. Anxiously left the room, but Chaos spoke again when he walked to the door. Don't send messages outside, and don't leave this building, otherwise it would be a shame to die. The old bust, trembling all over, closed the door quickly and left. For a time, only Chaos and Crocodile were left in the entire room. Lao Sha, you are lost. Chaos flicked soot, looking at Crocodile playfully. Who would have thought that in the future, the man with a big back and a black fur coat, Hockey's cruel character, 7 warlords of the sea, could easily be brought down when he was young. Who can believe it? And Crocodile was sitting on the sofa at this time, with a sullen face without speaking. It is estimated that today will never be forgotten in this life. Also thanks to the fact that Chaos sees and hears sex is released around the clock, otherwise the result is really hard to tell. Take a good rest tonight, tomorrow will not be so easy. Chaos lay on the bedside, smoking a cigar and looking at the ceiling. He needed to prepare early. Thousands of meters high in the sky, the goddess 3,000 gold silks and palace skirt ribbons fluttered, and the huge golden light wheel behind it was also turning. She was 60 meters tall and looked so majestic. Without warning, the goddess exploded. It turned into endless gold powder and fell densely towards Post Island below. It's raining. No, it's gold powder. Golden rain fell on the sky. On Post Island, where the nightlife has just reached its climax, people on all streets all looked up at the sky, and a large amount of gold powder was falling like a drizzle. Hurry up. No, how can the sky get gold powder for no reason? It is the Golden Emperor. This is a conspiracy. Many sober people hurriedly sought shelter to escape. But who can calm down in the face of such a situation? In just over 10 minutes, both the ground and the roof were covered with gold powder, and under the light, there was a golden halo blooming. It was real gold powder. As long as they are smelted together, they can be turned into gold. And these gold powders have no impurities at all, they are all pure gold. Crazy. The whole island is crazy. Whether it's a pirate or a mob, they ran into the street like crazy and started raids. Some calm people couldn't hold it anymore. After all, those who crack down on the gold powder don't seem to have any problems. Mom, it's really a gold powder. On the balcony of the brothel, Stella stretched out her hand in excitement to get the powder. Her face was full of surprises. Stella, don't touch it. The old bastard pulled Stella back, looked at the falling golden rain, and glanced behind him with a heavy expression on his face. Mom, what should we do now? The little spoken Oran spoke this time, looking at the exquisite face of golden rain not only did not excite, but paled a bit instead. The streets have been chaotic, and there are conflicts and killings because of gold powder everywhere. Whether it is a pirate or a mob, they are crazy, and only gold powder is in their eyes. The whole island can remain sober, very few. The golden shower is so beautiful. But there is a hidden murderous intention. Listen to Emperor Golden, don't contact outside, and don't leave this building. The old bust calmly lit the lady's cigarette, and after a sip, he seemed to spit out the worries in his heart in one fell swoop. Mom. Let's quietly inform the Golden Emperor that we can't find it. Stella stared at the golden rain. She really wanted to catch something now, but her mother wouldn't let it. To this end, pouting a little angry, madness. The old bastard looked at Stella with a headache, and then sighed, I should have known it, but I have a fluke in my heart. This time I almost hurt you. The old bastard is also the person in charge of this red light district, so he still has some insights. If she guessed right, the Golden Emperor could find their little movements because of observation hockey. Their current movements are probably all under the watch of the Golden Emperor. I just hope to survive in the end. It's mother. Go back and rest. Let's go, listen to my mother. A geisha reluctantly looked at Stella outside, closing the door and finally looking a little bit disheartened. That's golden powder. I don't know how many people will make a fortune tonight. There was no word for a night, and as the horizon gradually brightened, a new day had arrived. But the morning that should have been quiet is now very noisy. Damn it. Where's my golden powder? Who stole the gold powder I collected last night? Damn it. How could this be? Is the golden rain under the sky last night a dream? Many pirate thugs who woke up on the night were stunned. They worked so hard to collect the gold powder in the middle of the night and disappeared. Some idiots. Those pirates who stayed awake last night looked at the boiling chaotic streets, subconsciously looking in the direction of the brothel with fear in their eyes. In the latter half of the night, all the gold powder collected in pockets and boxes disappeared into the sky uncontrollably. Everyone was busy. No matter how tightly hidden, and no matter how the pirates grabbed the gold powder, in the end they all had to let go of taking people into the sky. How crazy they were last night, and how desperate they are now. What exactly does the Golden Emperor want to do? Many sober pirates don't understand that if the golden rain does not disappear in the end, then they really can't judge that these gold powders are related to the Golden Emperor. But as the gold dust lifted off, they were sure. But why did the Golden Emperor do it? Aren't you afraid to offend the pirate thugs on the entire island? After all, this seems to be deliberately provoking and attracting hatred. At this time, thousands of meters high in the sky, countless gold powders reintegrated into a goddess, but the current goddess is not 60 meters, but has shrunk a little. But even this is a huge monster. Those golden phoenix eyes opened, looking at the distant sea horizon. Pirate boats appeared scattered in all directions, and I believe there will be more and more pirate ships in all directions. And their destinations are all Post Island. Shoo. In the next instant, the goddess exploded and transformed into hundreds of golden warriors, baby-sized and child-sized, and star-robbed chests stood high in the sky like an army waiting for orders. After a few breaths, with the Post Island as the center, all the golden warriors flew out like a goddess with the sound of breaking through the air, and finally waited in the air. If you carefully measure it, you will find that these tiny golden warriors scattered in all directions are just 100 meters above the sea on the island of Post. Obviously this distance is already the limit. Captain, Post Island is here. The Golden Emperor is still on the island. Haha, it seems that our rat pirate group is the first to come. As long as we catch the Golden Emperor, we can become the strongest pirate group in the sea. At this time, a pirate ship with a skull banner, a group of fierce pirates on the deck, looked at the port of Post Island, where there were sparse and not many pirate ships. But when the pirate ship entered the range of 100 meters, the baby golden soldier who had been waiting in the sky quietly exploded and turned into gold dust, and fell towards the pirate ship like alive. There are still 60 meters away from the port. It's raining? This is. All the pirates raised their heads. Under the shining of the sun, a golden light rain fell in the sky. Ship. Captain, this seems to be gold powder. A pirate rubbed the gold powder in his hand, and his trembling eyes got bigger and bigger. What the hell? I haven't heard that the waters around Post Island will have gold powder. This is simply golden shower. Captain, we are rich. All the pirates turned red, watching the golden rain under the sky, and began to continue with various things. That's not right. Why is it only raining golden rain over us? Some pirates looked puzzled, because the golden rain was on their heads, and the pirate ship was still sunny and there was nothing. What's weird about this? The weather on the Grand Line would have been strange, but it would be more changeable in New World. Get rich. Get rich. Everyone is lost by the golden powder. There is no time to think about other things. But the next thing changed all the pirates from ecstatic to furious. My gold. What happened? Damn it, don't want to leave. The golden rain fell for almost a minute, but after a minute all the gold dust collected by the pirates disappeared into the sky. No matter how you cover it, you can't cover it, and there is no sign. He didn't even give the pirates time to react. All the pirates looked up at the blue sky, and they all jumped into thunder. The surprise came too fast, and it went too fast. The psychological gap is really unbearable for most people. At this time, thousands of meters high in the sky, all the gold powder combined into one once again became a golden warrior, but it was even smaller. Because all the gold powder that was lost has already entered the pirate's body. The current situation facing the rat pirates is not the only one, because all the pirate ships that have to land on Post Island, or the ships of other forces, have all experienced the baptism of the Golden Rain. But not all pirates have been baptized by the Golden Rain. There will always be some fish that slip through the net. And these fish that slip through the net are all vigilant guys. But even so, most of the surrounding partners have not escaped. Of course, in the end, it's all happiness and sorrow. Many pirates couldn't bear the gap and almost didn't mention it at once. But in the end he scolded him and landed on Post Island. In this way, more and more pirates landed, and the first thing to inquire was whether the Golden Emperor had left. Something is wrong. In the West Port, a boat entered the range of 100 meters, and the sky was raining as usual. There are two figures standing on the deck. One of them is wearing a white round hat with roses pinned on his head, carrying a small handbag, with short golden curly hair, wearing an orange halter dress, wearing white veil and walking on black woman in high heels. The exquisite face, the full of murder weapon, the water snake waist with a full grip, and the slender legs exposed, the mature Oni-san temperament displayed is enough to fascinate a large group of stinky men. The Queen of Joy Stussy, the undercover agent of the world government planted in the underground world. The real identity is CPO, she is an extremely beautiful and dangerous woman. He is currently rectifying business in the red light district, and it may not be long before he will become one of the big names in the underground world. The power has not spread all over the world like the future. Next to Stussy was a tall, burly man wearing a mask, wearing a black suit and tie. The arm alone was thicker than Stussy's slender waist. The two standing together is the difference between a black bear and a weak girl. Lombard, Stussy's deputy. Sure enough, there is a problem. Stussy's thin hand with red nails retracted, and he could feel that some gold powder was slowly eroding his body. But this little trick has no effect on her who can freely control her body. From a closer distance, you can see that although the gold powder covers Stussy's incense shoulders, it can't get in. As for the Lombard next to him, he was more domineering, covered with armed colors from head to toe, just like an airtight egg. As the boats kept getting closer to the port, the gold powder soared into the sky and disappeared into the sky, which made Stussy's heart sink even more. These gold powders are unusual and are likely to be related to the Golden Emperor. Could it be that what happened? At the moment, in the brothel, Chaos is enjoying breakfast under the service of Oiran and Stella, and Crocodile is cold, looking at these geishas' eyes full of sorrow. There are also the old bustards in the room. They all stood by and behaved, bowing their heads not daring to look at Crocodile. Captain, the Golden Emperor is inside. Outside the brothel, the streets and alleys are full of pirate thugs. There are many pirate groups on the sidelines, but some can't help it. The Golden Emperor, we are going to the pirate group, the young ones follow me in. HMPH, the Golden Emperor can only belong to our rat pirate group. Little ones rush. As long as you get the Golden Emperor, you can get the whole world. There were more than a dozen pirate groups, all of which added up to a few hundred people, and they all acted. However, puff, puff, puff. When all the pirates who were rushing with excitement reached the gate of the brothel, they all made a unified movement uncontrollably and knelt down neatly on their knees. Needles fell all at once in the noisy street. What happened? What happened? What the hell? Hundreds of people knelt neatly on the street, and at a glance, they were all heads. The pirate who hadn't rushed to kill was shocked, and couldn't figure out what happened. But at this time, the hundreds of people who were kneeling on the ground were stunned at first, and then shuddered and frightened. They couldn't control their bodies no matter how hard they struggled, and they couldn't even open their mouths, let alone speak. A strange smell filled the air. It still depends on our giant sword pirate group. It's a great big knife with a reward of 123 million. Let's take a look at the situation first. For a time, all eyes focused on the giant knife pirate group. But, puff. Without the slightest disobedience, all the giant sword pirate groups that rushed, including the captain, knelt on the ground, kneeling straight facing the brothel. There was fear in those eyes. What happened? Why can't my body control it? Can't even speak. Hiss, behind a large group of pirates took a breath, but those pirates, who offered a reward of 123 million, knelt unexpectedly. Kneeling so fast. In the end, what happened? I don't believe in evil. There is never a shortage of courageous pirates, but the next situation is getting more and more weird. One will kneel down for everything. In just a few tens of minutes, people were all kneeling at the door of the brothel. Whether it came first, then arrived, or later, all the pirates watched this weird scene uncertainly. Occasionally there will be pirates who do not believe in evil, but in the end they become one of them. In fact, many pirates have guessed the reason, but they are not sure. In the crowd, Stussy's pretty eyebrows furrowed slightly, making it more certain that there was an accident. Carrying the small pink handbag, Stussy walked away from her long white legs and walked towards the brothel. She had already guessed what happened to the pirates who were kneeling down. Not surprisingly, it should have something to do with the golden rain before going to the island. Who is this woman? Stussy and Lombard attracted all eyes, almost gloating. What happened? Why didn't they kneel down? The expressions of many pirates watching the play stiffened. In the brothel, Chaos took a sip of his cigar, and the corners of his mouth were drawn after spitting out the smoke ring. Finally came the character he was looking forward to. Stussy stood at the door of the brothel, opened the door without any hindrance, entered the hall and looked at the red carpeted stairs on the second floor. The other party had no intention of hiding at all. It even seemed to be waiting for her specially. Stepping up the stairs with high heels, Stussy walked up with graceful catwalks. Many pirates outside saw that Stussy and Lombard were fine, and followed suit. But as they knelt down again, all the pirates began to yell. Sit. On the second floor, Chaos and Stussy had their eyes facing each other, and then glanced up and down at Stussy's rugged mature figure very rudely, and nodded with his cigar from time to time. It seems very satisfied. This light look of Chaos is very offensive. However, Stussy kept a small smile, walked on the long-legged sofa, and sat down gracefully. It seems that my men have failed. Stussy held the small handbag in his left hand and stretched out his right hand to lift the hair from his forehead to the base of his ears. The bright eyes first glanced at the old bustard who couldn't hold back his joy, and then looked at Chaos with a chuckle. I'm relatively straightforward. I'm interested in you now. Chaos tilted Erlang's legs and flicked his golden sword earrings, making a very clear and loud empty sound. Stussy still smiled. Chaos's rudeness still didn't make her show any other emotions. I'm afraid you don't know your situation yet. Golden Emperor Gaia Chaos. Stussy's voice became slightly colder. Does it conflict with me? Chaos spit out a smoke ring at Stussy provocatively, and continued a little domineering. Working for the world government is no future. Years and hours of work and clocking in make life lose vitality and expectations, which is too boring. He had to obey orders from a group of mentally retarded pigs, and life was too tired and boring. It's different with me. I guarantee that your life will be colorful and you will experience the true meaning of life every day. That's the real life. Crocodile, with a cold face next to him, subconsciously puckered his mouth as he listened to Chaos's words. Life is true, colorful, and truly alive. I'm afraid that it's not about being chased and killed every day, and I will dance frantically on the edge of death all the time, and I may go to heaven one day. You know who I am. Stussy's face was completely cold, and her beautiful eyes were full of sorrow. Her identity has always been kept secret. How did the Golden Emperor know? Stussy looked at the old bustard subconsciously, already sentenced to death in her heart. Only the old bustard knew little about her identity. Facing Stussy's cold eyes, the old bustard almost cried, shaking his head in panic on his face. You don't need to look at her, isn't it the CPO? What's so surprising? Chaos picked up the red wine next to him, shook his winning ticket and looked at Stussy, and continued, I don't like to use strong. As soon as Chaos had finished speaking, Lombard, who had been standing next to Stussy, made a surprise move, which no one had expected. But Crocodile, who has always been vigilant, is not included. The right hand was clenched and covered with armed color, and the lower body formed fine sand to block Lombard's fist. A seat with a big back and his head tilted back, his eyes squinted wildly. Boss, don't mind if I kill him. Casual. The vertical hair of Chaos was also dancing wildly with vigor, waving his hand calmly. Desert knife. With the approval of Chaos, Crocodile formed a desert sword in his left hand, wrapped in his arms and swung towards Lombard in one fell swoop, without leaving the slightest retreat. Lombard was not weak either. His left arm was covered with arms, and he blocked Crocodile's attack in one fell swoop. Then the two took the opportunity to break through the wall and leave the brothel to the street outside. What's the situation? That seems to be the king of the desert, Crocodile, Logia. Sand fruit, who is under the Golden Emperor's subordinates, offering a reward of 560 million. 560 million? Logia capable person? Many pirates were frightened, and both of them were shocked if they were taken out. It looks like the woman who was fighting him was next to the woman just now. This sudden battle dazzled the atmosphere on the scene. However, just as everyone watched the two fighting, the brothel was in a state of tension. Stussy's legs are close together, holding a small pink handbag in one hand, and his cold eyes watched leaning on the back of the chair, with 8-pack abs with his chest open. He was smoking and playing like Chaos was full of flaws. Just as Chaos squinted his eyes and exhaled smoke rings, Stussy struck out. The right hand pierced like lightning, the air tore to form transparent fingers, and armament hockey was also wrapped. Even a half-meter thick steel plate could be easily penetrated. But just at the moment, Chaos tilted his head, rubbing his face with his fingers through the back of the chair, and the trend continued to penetrate the walls and the rows of houses behind the brothel, and disappeared after leaving a finger hole the size of a thumb. Ends. Shoo. After the first attack, Stussy disappeared quickly, and the sofa was penetrated by swords, guns, swords and halberds in the next second, which can be said to be very swift and fierce. I wanted to be a gentleman, but now it seems that conditions are not allowed. Chaos sat on the chair with his head tilted, looking helplessly at Stussy 10 meters away. And the outside world is making noise in vain. Because the sky flew down a handful of golden weapons, all of them were aimed at the brothel in all directions, shining with golden light under the sun, full of golden spirit. Stussy's pretty face changed color, and in the perception of seeing, hearing and color, there was almost a net outside. As Chaos waved his hand indifferently, thousands of knives, guns and halberds outside all burst and turned into off-stringed arrows penetrating through the wall towards Stussy. Time seemed to slow down at this moment. The ruined sawdust flew, Stussy shook his waist and leaned back, a golden square painted halberd brushed the beating weapon, and then Stussy quickly turned 360 degrees in the air, and a long sword and a spear appeared on both sides of the upper and lower sides. More and more 18 weapons went hand in hand, and almost all sides were blocked. Boom boom boom. The bombing continued, but those weapons penetrated all the afterimages of Stussy. The real Stussy kept using shaving and flashing, making all kinds of difficult dodges in the entire narrow room, and even dodge a small part of the attack. But the King's Treasure's attacks were too many and too intensive. A golden wavy short hair completely flew out, the rose-round hat was pierced and taken away by a golden spear, and the orange skirt was torn into strips by swords, guns and halberds. If it weren't for iron body and armed color defense, it would have snow-white skin. There are bound to be wounds on the body. Flying finger pistol. Tempest kick. Not all Stussy was avoiding, and he took the opportunity to attack Chaos. It's a pity that all attacks were blocked by golden weapons before they got close. Jingle bell. In vain, the sound of Jin-Ji and Iron Horse came, and several skylocks made up for the entire room, continuously compressing Stussy's range of movement, and at the same time, the pressure on Stussy was increasing. At this time, a golden long knife was cut, and Stussy spun in the air with one hand on the ground, no longer caring about it. Compared to Stussy's panic, Chaos watched with pleasure. Boom. Stussy flew into the sky and smashed through the roof, and came outside to try to get a distance, but what was waiting for her was the empty sky with 18 weapons, densely shining with cold light and clouding the sun. Storm. Stussy's face was cold and frosty, and a layer of cold sweat appeared on his forehead, and he swiveled 360 degrees, flying finger pistol and tempest kick wrapped in armed colors to form a dense counterattack, knocking all the knives, guns and halberds shot from all directions. But at this moment, most of the weapons in the sky merged to form a huge hammer, the force sinking like a heavy hammer. Stussy only held a few breaths and turned into a meteor to fall from the sky. The whole crumbling brothel exploded completely, and the dust covered his sight. Chaos stood out of thin air, squeezing a cigar with one hand and looking down on the ground, behind his golden goose feather coat dancing wildly, rows of gold hanging on top of his head. Ahem. The dense dust cleared, Stussy stood up and coughed, her sexy red lips shed a trace of blood, no longer the maturity and elegance of the past. And his face was pale and looked pitiful. Are you planning to continue resisting? Chaos tilted his head slightly, and the gold earrings swayed, showing coldness and arrogance. He didn't need to take action personally, only the King's Treasure could solve Stussy. Stussy did not speak, but told Chaos with action. Use shaving to disappear, trying to get close to Chaos. She had the same idea as anyone who had previously defeated Chaos, that was close combat, and her subconscious thought that Chaos' melee ability would be very weak. After all, long-range attacks were so strong. Little did they know that this illusion tends to speed up defeat. Facing Stussie's stubborn resistance, Chaos looked contemptuous of the king, and the densely packed knives, guns and halberds in the sky behind him fell like missiles with the sound of breaking through the air. Boom boom. The whole ground burst into potholes, all kinds of mud and gravel splashed, and Stussie kept shining in them. That woman has no chance of winning. Is this the strength of the Golden Emperor? If you can't even get close, how can you defeat the Golden Emperor? The Golden Emperor's long-range attack is really too powerful. All the pirates who were watching in the distance looked at Chaos with full of dread. In the scene, Stussie rushed several times, but they were all forced to return. With the passage of time, the pressure is increasing. At the same time, there are more and more leaks in the spring, and Chaos is not too slow, just like playing, not too serious. Crescent. The entire ground was bombarded wildly, a large amount of dirt and gravel flew out like bullets, and the entire area was covered by dust. In vain, the crescent-shaped tempest kick was wrapped in an armed color. It cut through the dust and rushed towards Chaos. It flew violently along the road with swords, guns, swords and halberds, but in the end it was cancelled out without flying in front of Chaos. Stussie was panting with a disheveled head, the full weapon shook, her face was white and her teeth were clenched, and she was crushed to death from the beginning of the battle to the present. She is very clear that she is not an opponent. It seems that I can only retreat. Stussie was very decisive, glanced at Chaos coldly, and shot out quickly towards the distant street. Chaos flicked the finished cigar in midair, and his golden goose feather coat fluttered behind him. He raised his right hand and waved it lightly. The knives, guns and halberds in the sky, including the golden weapons inserted on the ground, turned into locks of the sky. It was like a meteor shower chasing out with an ethereal sound. Bang bang. All the locks of the sky are like a javelin shot on Stussie's escape road, row by row to block the way, no matter how Stussie changes direction, all one after another, eventually shrinking the space. Not good. Stussie dodged a few straight locks of the sky dangerously, moving to the left and found that he had been blocked, just for more than 10 seconds, both front and back were blocked by the straight locks of the sky. Only the sky above the head is not blocked. But just after Stussie stepped on the moonwalk to try to leave the air, all the ends of the locks of the sky began to connect together, and finally formed a birdcage to lock Stussie inside. Damn it, Crescent. Stussie kicked out several tempest kick in succession, but only a spark was left on the lock of the sky. Because all the locks of the sky changed from golden to black and gold. Chaos used armed color. What made Stussie desperate the most was that even the ground was blocked by the lock of heaven at the moment. She is now the restrained caged bird, with no way to go to heaven and earth. Shoo. Birdcage began to shrink, and at the same time it shot a chain of skylocks in an attempt to tie Stussie. The result was already clear. After a few breaths, Birdcage contracted to the size of 10 squares, and Stussie's hands and feet were tied by the 4 heaven locks. Standing in a large font in Birdcage, no matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't escape. Chaos moved laterally, entered Birdcage and stood out of thin air, looking at Stussie, who was calmly looking at him, with his hands on his shoulders, full of interest. You can choose. The world government is bound to win you, you can't escape. Stussie's eyes were burning, and no one on this sea could beat the world government. Don't worry about world government, I just want you. If I betray the world government, neither you nor I will survive. The energy of CPO is not something you can resist. Don't tell me these nonsense, give you 5 seconds to think about it. Chaos interrupted Stussie, then tilted his head to look at the sea level and frowned. I choose to live. Stussie is also very simple, intending to agree before looking for opportunities. This kind of situation would rather die than surrender, that would be the most stupid. There is hope only when you are alive. She would not bet her life on whether this man would kill her. Very wise choice. Chaos turned his head and snapped his fingers, and a piece of gold fell on his head, which quickly dyed Stussie gold. Don't use your life to return the gold powder in your body. Otherwise I will immediately make you explode like fireworks. I believe it will be very beautiful. Birdcage was transformed into swords, guns, swords and halberds, and at the same time, the lock of the sky released Stussie. Chaos left a lot of gold powder in Stussie's body. As long as Stussie used his life to return it, he would manipulate these gold powder to make Stussie dead. Stussie stepped on the moonwalk to hang in the air, feeling the large amount of gold powder in his body expressionless. If it is only a small amount, she can solve it, because she can withstand the damage caused. After all, there is life to return, but what Sao's left behind is not a little bit. If so many gold powder broke out, she would only have a dead end. On the other side, Crocodile's mouth was bloody, and he pinched Lombard's neck with one hand. The latter's body quickly dried up, and in the blink of an eye, he was absorbed by the water and turned into a corpse. Elementalization appeared beside Chaos, a little embarrassed. Chaos snapped his fingers, knives, guns, swords and halberds merged to form a platform suspended, and quickly squirmed into 3 golden seats. Chaos sat in the middle position, while Crocodile and Stussy took a look behind them and sat on Chaos. See left and right. As soon as Stussy sat on the golden seat, her slender, white legs entangled with 2 branches of gold. All the way up, she passed the absolute field, thin waist and full murder weapon, and finally formed a golden battle shirt carved with roses. The alluring spring light was all covered. This is not an ornament, it is very defensive. What are we waiting for? Stussy didn't quite understand. The man didn't seem to want to leave. The current situation is very critical. As far as she knows, a large number of pirate groups are coming to Post Island with the purpose of catching the Golden Emperor. Even the big pirate groups in New World were dispatched. Even the Marine Admiral Buddha Sengoku personally dispatched. The longer you wait here, the more dangerous it becomes. Compared to Stussy's confusion, Crocodile was much calmer. Bold and grandiose sat on the golden seat, raised their big back and looked down at the restless pirates on the ground. A little bit higher, he is like an emperor. This feeling made him head up. Wait for some Gyuki snake gods. Chaos took out a cigar and threw it to Crocodile, then lit one of it himself, snorting with enjoyment with his legs tilted up. Don't forget to give Stussy one, but the latter is a lady, and she smokes a lady's cigarette if she wants to smoke. Wouldn't she have no taste in smoking a cigar? Crocodile took the cigar, and a small cloud of sand rubbed between his index finger and thumb, which caused a high temperature to ignite the cigar. Inspired by the way Chaos lit cigarettes, in the future, the title will be changed to Boss. Stussy almost got choked, still knowing how to judge the situation and continue to say, do you know what the situation is now, boss? We will all die if we stay here. Then what? Chaos shrugged, looking at the horizon. More and more pirate ships appeared. At the same time, the sky is still raining with golden rain. Before Stussy could reply, Crocodile spoke in vain, full of contempt. All this fuss is excitement. Chaos subconsciously tilted his head to look at Crocodile, his eyes a little wrong. Crocodile looked ahead, slightly embarrassed. But he was very calm, and he took his cigar for granted. Lao Sha, when has my consciousness been so high? Chaos was a little surprised. He seemed to be very successful in taking Crocodile crookedly. At least more arrogant than the original Crocodile. You must know that Crocodile is still a young man. According to this temper, he will inevitably be beaten by the society and commit sins in the future. Wait, boss, what you said before is a colorful life, and understanding the true meaning of life will not be just like this. Stussy's expression became out of control, and the 2 men suddenly gave her a crazy feeling. I really did not appreciate it wrong. Your talent is higher and more delicate than Lao Sha. Chaos looked at Stussy with more satisfaction, and realized his pursuit in just a few words. After being affirmed, Stussy's delicate face gradually solidified. Look at it, that's the slippery pirate group. Really, you have to know that the captain of the skateboarding pirate group, Skater Darius, is a female pirate offering a reward of 232 million. She is a paramecia sliding fruit capable person. It is said that the suitor can queue from the Grand Line. In New World, big pirates who once offered a reward of 600 to 700 million have pursued it. It is rumored that he has beautiful skin and is recognized as one of the most beautiful pirates in the sea. Come, disembark. At this moment, the port of Post, compared to the pirate ships that docked in pieces before, is now full. One of the pirate ships caused huge waves, and many pirates were watching. Captain, Post Island is here. Under the gaze of many pirates, a pair of men and horses got off the pirate ship. The head is a very bold person, just wearing a 3-point swimsuit with a red rose pattern embroidered on it, with a waist-length orange-red curly hair, wearing refreshing sandals and red nail polish, and wearing jewelry earrings. Woman. Under the sun, the skin is smooth and supple like a pearl. As soon as this woman appeared, all the men in the harbor flashed with love, and the corners of their lips couldn't help but slobber. Are you sure the Golden Emperor is on this island? Dialisi lifted the orange-red wavy hair on her shoulders. Her light blue eyes looked at the pirates in the harbor with a little disdain. Yes. Beside Dialysi, there were quite a few fierce or tall female pirates, and none of them were men. Go to the island. Dailies walked with long legs, and the catwalk alone made it irritating. Haha. I thought it was the skater Diaries who attracted such a lot of attention. Just as Diaries disembarked, a huge pirate ship stopped next to the pirate ship. The pirate flag was a flag of a black bear holding a skeleton. Hiss. It's the bear pirates of New World. Someone exclaimed again. Looking at the huge figure coming down from the boat, with a height of 5 meters carrying a machete on his shoulders, his muscles exuding evil spirits, especially with the scars of the centipede from the bridge of the nose to the lips, making it more fierce and dangerous. Burst Bear Trusha, offering a reward of 290 million, Zone Black Bear form. If Buffalo Arquette is synonymous with naive, then Burst Bear Trusha is synonymous with brutality and violence. Huh. Rude man. Dialysi looked down on her beautiful eyes. What she hates most is this kind of big and thick man. Slider. Do you want to consider being Lousy's woman? Explosive Bear Tarusha jumped out of the ship with a machete, standing on the harbor, looking at Diaries fiercely. I'm not interested in rude men. Dialysi greeted her, flutteringly ignoring Tarusha the explosive bear and left. Captain. Do you want to do it? The subordinates next to Bakushang all looked at the swaying pea shares of Dialysi and his party with coveting. They wanted to fly away as they walked around, showing that they were seduce people. This woman is not easy to deal with. First grab the Golden Emperor, and then I will take the initiative to slip and stick. Burst Bear snorted coldly. As long as he got the Golden Emperor, he could recruit troops and buy horses. At that time, the life or death of the skating pirates was all within his mind. The captain is still thoughtful. Ha ha. As the Slippery Pirate Group and the Bear Pirate Group landed on the island, it didn't take long for many powerful pirate groups to come. For example, the Obsidian Pirates, the captain of the Obsidian King Mageda offers a reward of 241 million, and the Paramecia Obsidian Fruit ability. There is also the Cruel Pirate Group, the Captain Leopard King Tichel, Zone Cat Fruit Leopard form, offering a reward of 260 million. There is also a reward of 238 million, the Maker Kakot, and the Paramecia Weapon Fruit ability. There are even acquaintances once encountered in Magic Valley, such as Reaper Thesis, Madara Horsekiller Barn X, Octopus Madman Rotes, Swordsman Cruz, and so on. But no matter who it is, as long as there is a pirate boat or a boat, they have encountered the Golden Rain. There was no problem with the vigilant pirates, but as a whole, except for the individual pirates, all the others suffered silently. At this moment, thousands of meters high in the sky, a violent wind entangled like life, and finally turned into a tall figure with a hood. The baby golden soldier who had closed his eyes suddenly opened his eyes and stared at him. Because this person didn't mean to hide, on the contrary, he took the initiative to get together. At the same time, Chaos on the ground suddenly raised his head to look in this direction, and his arrogant complexion became a little surprised, playful, and expectant. Golden Emperor Gaia Chaos, meet for the first time. At a height of 1,000 meters, the man in the cloak smiled at the baby golden warrior, but because of his head covering, he could only see the arc of the gully corner of his mouth. Monkey D. Dragon. The baby golden warrior uttered a word. The hoarse voice did not contain the slightest emotion, and some were just as cold as metal. It seems that your excellency knows me, maybe we should meet up. The fierce gang wind opened the cloak, revealing a vicious man with no eyebrows and a big hedgehog. Of course, but not now. The baby golden warrior left a word, and suddenly burst into gold dust and began to fall. For a time, there was only one dragon left in the entire sky, and he immediately looked at Post Island, as if looking at each other in the air. Interesting. Chaos retracted his gaze and tapped his finger on the golden seat subconsciously. He hadn't expected Monkey D. Dragon to meet here, and he came to him specifically to see the look of the dragon. Dragon should be starting a business at this time. Maybe he was targeted. If you have your own help, then Long Entrepreneur will not be short of funds, and the speed of development may be faster than the original work. Chaos guessed the dragon's plan just after thinking about it. But what Chaos thinks now is, if the dragon recruits him, should he agree? The answer is actually obvious, he cannot succumb to others. What he wants is freedom, high profile, arrogant, lawless waves on the sea. Do whatever he wants is what he wants. So at the worst, Dragon might use strong means to control him. But now you can take advantage of the other party. Naturally, one more method of retreat should be prepared. The real big shot has not yet appeared. Captain, Post Island is coming. On the distant sea horizon, A huge pirate ship with a flying pirate flag hung on the main trunk and a jelly skull pirate flag hung on the auxiliary pole is speeding up its voyage towards the island of Post. A female pirate on the watchtower put down her binoculars and reported to the deck below. Yes. Under the deck umbrella, Jelly Queen Anne wore pink shorts and took off the sunglasses on the bridge of her nose, and she could vaguely see the outline of Post Island. Two tall women stood beside it. It is the right arm of Jelly Queen Anne. They are Shaw with a reward of 410 million and Ammons with a reward of 350 million. This ship is not only the team of Jelly Queen, but also the team of Lone Wolf's band. It's just that I'm asleep in the cabin. Go and wake that idiot Spander. Jelly Queen Anne stood up from the deck chair, walked to the bow and looked at more than a dozen pirate boats, large and small, on the surrounding sea. The closer to the island of Post, the more. It seems that there are still many people who are eyeing the Golden Emperor. I heard that even Sengoku, the Marine Admiral Buddha, took the shot himself. This task does not seem to be completed so easily. Jiuan Street, now an area, has been reduced to ruins. The bustling pirates all around, almost all looked at the three figures sitting on the golden platform above the ruins, especially the cold and arrogant man with Erlang's legs in the center and a golden goose feather coat exposing 8-pack abdominal muscles. And on the ground in rows, there are tall, short, fat and thin, all kneeling neatly. Among them, there is no shortage of pirates offering a reward of hundreds of millions of Baileys. Now all the pirates in the periphery dare not cross the non-existent red line, because in a short period of time, they saw too many pirates rushing out, and they knelt on the ground very strangely before they got under the Golden Emperor. This situation is too shocking and frightening. For this reason, the atmosphere at the scene is very depressing and weird. And the Golden Emperor seemed to be waiting for something, looking at the direction of the port. Suddenly the dense crowd pushed away, and a group of people came in each of the 5 directions. The leader is impressively the 5 forces of Slider Dairies, Burst Bear Trusha, Maker Kakot, Obsidian King Magic Tower, and Leopard King Tichel. At the same time, many people appeared on the roof of the street, all of them looking to this side. For example, those from Demon Valley Town. The Madara Horsekiller saw the appearance of Chaos's face, and his face was very angry. He has not forgotten that humiliating time so far. There is also the Swordsman Cruz, his eyes are cold and murderous. That time, he took the initiative to retreat in Demon Valley Town, leading to rumors in many places that he is not the opponent of the Golden Emperor, and he has often suffered contempt and Byakugan. Puff haha. Which of you will go first? Explosive Bear Trusha, with a machete hanging down, looked at Chaos with a ferocious face and was very upset. The other party is too arrogant, fancy as if no one looks down on it, pulling very hard. He likes to chop this kind of people into 10 or 8 yuan. Those who dared to be arrogant in front of him, the graves were overgrown with grass. If you can't bear it, you can try it. Leopard King Tichel folded his shoulders and scanned the crowds of kneeling people on the ground, frowning a little hesitantly. According to the arguments of the pirates around, those people seemed to change into that as soon as they rushed away. Since Burma Trusha is going to be the first bird, it couldn't be better. There are Skaters Dairies and Obsidian King who have the same idea as Leopard King Tichel. The presence of them also gave them the highest rewards and combat power, and the pirates who were far away from the surroundings could see that they all looked at them with fear and caution. Huh. A group of turtles with heads down. Bursting Bear Trusha looked down on the Leopard King and the others more and more, then turned to look at the Skater Dairies. Wait for me to catch the Golden Emperor, you will definitely become my slave. After speaking, he laughed arrogantly, and ignored the ice-cold eyes of the skater at all. There are countless pirates who want to ravage a skater. After all, the more beautiful things are, the more pleasant it is to be ravaged. Roar. Accompanied by the roar of the huge beast, the 5-meter-high body of Burst Bear Trusha suddenly appeared thick black hair, and continued to swell, and finally turned into a 7-meter-high beast-shaped black bear, rolling fierce and mighty surrounding many seas. The thief opened the distance again. It's Boom Bear Trusha. Zone black bear form. Many people were afraid, after all, Trusha was too violent now. And this roar also attracted Chaos's gaze. Little ones, punch me. With the thick black hair holding the machete with his big hands, Trusha shook his finger at Chaos, sure to win. Go. Suddenly, the pirates of the Bear Pirates group are all like wild horses that have taken off their reins. Their green eyes are greedily looking at Chaos, to be precise, the golden chair and platform under the buttocks. As long as they catch the Golden Emperor, they can become the most powerful pirate group in the world. When the time comes, they will dominate the New World and Grand Line. Who dares not accept the order? Wealth, women, and power are all at your fingertips. Imagination is beautiful, but reality is very cruel. Puff. Puff, puff, puff. The pirates who had come down the mountain like a pack of wolves, one by one kneeled on the ground like cutting wheat, straightened up and their eyes were full of fear. As for the previous madness, the madness has long disappeared. Not only can they not control their bodies, they can't even speak. The needle falling in the audience can be heard. The Leopard King, Skater, Obsidian King, Maker and others all changed their faces. What's the situation? They did not see the Golden Emperor make a move. The scene in front of me is too evil, court death. Explosive Bear Trusha was furious, opened his blood basin and made waves, holding a machete, and rushed out. The earth seemed to be shaking, and a large amount of dirt and rubble was splashed and shot, rising from Trusha. The momentum makes people tremble with fear. Chaos supported his chin with one hand, and when he sensed the gold powder in the body of Bursting Bear Trusha, Wang Ji's contempt became even more contemptuous. This guy is similar to Buffalo Arquette, and has some flaws in IQ. Or he knows everything, but he is too confident in himself. Boom. 10 meters in a radius of the ground sank. Burst Bear Trusha soared into the sky, jumped to the front of Chaos, holding a machete in both hands, and quickly covered his arms with glaring anger, as if he had cut it off in one fell swoop. Facing such a terrible blow, Chaos just stretched out a finger and gently pressed it down. In an instant, Explosive Bear Trusha slammed the ground with a sonic boom, billowing smoke covering the cloud, and everyone looked silly. After the dust dissipated, Bursting Bear Trusha leaned forward and sank deep into the mud, tearing the surrounding ground to form large craters, and his face was completely blank. On the golden seat, Chaos put his right hand on his side face, and gently raised his left hand. Burst Bear Trusha was suspended again uncontrollably, and stood in front of Chaos in a large font, waiting to return to his gaze. What did you do to me? Explosive Bear Trusha teared his eyes, his fierceness remained undiminished, but he was even more brutal and brutal. But the panic was still exposed deep in the eyes. Chaos chuckled, and pressed his index finger lightly. Burst Bear Trusha turned into a cannonball and smashed into the ground. The dirt and rocks splashed again, and the potholes continued to expand. Before Explosive Bear Trusha could breathe, Chaos lifted and pressed it down again. Boom boom boom. The roars followed one after another, and the ground around them kept bursting and cocked, and the pirates outside looked stupid. There is no backhand. Burst Bear Trusha couldn't even resist, and the Golden Emperor could tease at will with just a finger. What kind of ability is it? Isn't it said that Golden Emperor's devil fruit is a golden fruit? It's weird. The Leopard King and the others were confident in the beginning, but now they have become uncertain. They also wanted to see how Burst Bear Trusha would force the Golden Emperor some of his abilities, but they knelt before the start of the game. And I don't know how to kneel. The unknown is the most terrifying. Ahem. In midair, Burst Bear Trusha was suspended in a large font, with a gray head and a muddy face covered in blood, and he looked embarrassed, but his injuries were not too serious. Chaos had never thought of killing this guy from the beginning. Keeping is more valuable than dead. Whether it's Explosive Bear Trusha, the kneeling people on the ground, and the countless pirates with gold powder in their bodies, they are all backed by Chaos. Enough to deal with all troubles, especially after the break. Let me go. Burst Bear Trusha persuaded. There is fear in the depths of my eyes. Completely live up to the brutality and arrogance before. He just wants to live now. Chaos didn't pay attention to Explosive Bear Trusha at all. He just pointed at Explosive Bear Trusha and knelt on the ground, being neat and tidy with other pirates. This kind of recognition, Chaos didn't think much. In other words, he faces life and death, not much more noble than Burst Bear Trusha. Golden Rain. In the pirate area, the Maker Kakot lit a cigarette, wore 2 pistols around his waist in a windbreaker, and was wearing mechanical boots on his feet. If he added a cowboy hat, he would be a living Western cowboy. Before, he had been thinking about combining the Golden Emperor's easy control of Burst Bear Trusha in the large swaths of kneeling pirates on the ground, and then thinking of the golden rain falling in the sky in front of the island, and the Golden Emperor's ability. Probably got the result. Kakot smoked a cigarette calmly, but when you look closely, you will find that his hands are a little trembling. And there was a layer of cold sweat on his forehead. Because he had also been exposed to the golden rain before going to the island. Wipe. Damn it. The Leopard King Tichel also reacted, his face paled on the spot. He and all his subordinates have also been exposed to the golden shower. Insidious enough. I have been skeptical about those golden rains, and there really is a problem. This is calculated before going to the island. It's no wonder that the Golden Emperor can still be calm in the face of so many pirates, dare to give us life and death in his hands before we get to the island. Damn it. What should we do now? More and more pirates panicked. It can be said without hesitation that 99% of the pirates present have been exposed to the golden rain. Didn't you even see the explosive bear Trusha, who is offering a reward of 290 million, kneel down? The Golden Emperor just moved his fingers and pressed it on the ground. Kneeling honestly now, as clever as he is, he has no temper at all. Slider, King Obsidian, I'm afraid you two are all right now. Maker Kakot looked ugly. He couldn't make a move now. As long as he made a move, he would be like the burst bear Trusha. The Golden Emperor only needs to move his fingers to press him to death.
If you want to change this situation, you must defeat the Golden Emperor.
Either withdraw. He felt that the soul would leave the tinling cover at any time, which was very unsafe. This hidden danger must be resolved. In this situation, Carter not only didn't panic, he was calm. The first time I thought of the Skater diaries and the Obsidian King Mohieta, although the two sides have seen a few times and have not dealt with each other, the newspaper and the reward have brought all the pirates closer together. What kind of power does everyone have? What demon fruit power is? None of them is a secret. Slider Diaries is a Paramecia sliding fruit ability. The golden rain falls on the body and automatically slid away. The Obsidian King Magic Tower is a Paramecia obsidian fruit ability, an obsidian person. Even if the gold powder invades, it will be restricted. The most important thing is that the Obsidian King has not been exposed to the golden rain. There was a golden rain in the sky before going to the island for no reason, which made him very vigilant. On the surface, he looks like a strong man with well-developed limbs and simple mind, but he is thick and thin. A bunch of trash. Dialisi did not conceal the disdain in her eyes. She fluttered with her long orange hair and walked into the arena with her smooth and slender white legs. Even if the Maker didn't say that she had to do it, although golden rain was useless to her, almost all of her men were exposed to it. Not to mention the Golden Emperor she is determined to win. Her goal is to become the strongest female pirate in the sea, and take revenge on Big Mom of New World. It's the Skater Diaries. Is she going to make a move? What a nice view. Skin is too smooth and tender. The woman of damn it. When Diaries entered the arena like this, the man salivated, wishing to grow his eyes on Dyrus's perfectly proportioned figure in a three-point swimsuit. Some female pirates were jealous, and wished that Dialisi would just disappear. Who is this woman? Chaos succeeded in being noticed. Because this woman is very beautiful and sexy, and there is no gold powder in her body. Slider Delis, Paramecia, a fruit slipper, offers a reward of 232 million Baileys. Stussy held his profile face in one hand, and said enviously, wow, so young, beautiful and bold, is there any interest in the boss? People will have weaknesses, and men's weaknesses are nothing more than power, wealth and beauty. Stussy wanted to see what the man's weakness was. If it is beauty, it will be easier to deal with in the future. Sliding fruit, no wonder. For some reason, Chaos thought of Madara, a fat and ugly woman. The future will also become sexy and attractive because of the slippery fruit. That was the first female villain Wong Luffy met, called Alvida. It is very impressive, properly gorgeous transformation. Snapped. As Chaos snapped his fingers, all the knives, guns and halberds standing behind were aimed at Diaries, and then they flew out like bullets. Chaos didn't hesitate to do it, which surprised Stussy. This man, Shu. The air neighed fiercely, and Dialisi habitually fluttered her long hair, swaying her buttocks in response to the attack, as if a fashion model was on a catwalk.
Extremely sexy and temptation, let the spring heart rippling hormone explosion.
Rumble. The most unbelievable thing happened. The swords, guns and halberds that could easily be shot through the ground were all slid away when they were shot on Dara's skin. Despite the explosions all around, Dialisi did not get the slightest dust. This scene is very ornamental. Just like a person walking in a missile bombing, all attacks are actively avoided, as if being embraced by the goddess of luck. Zero friction, interesting. Chaos gently fluttered with his left hand in front of Diaries. All the knives, guns and halberds that fell behind his back were all shot out like a swarm of bees. It's useless. Diaries met Chaos's playful eyes, letting swords and halberds shoot on her body, but both her head and body were slid away. Her ability restrains all weapons. Even the sword hero's slash can slide away. Snapped. Chaos snapped his fingers, and the swords, guns, swords and halberds shot on the ground were all merged into the lock of the sky, and rows of shots turned into birdcage, which did not give Dairis a chance to react. What's more, Dailisi is now like a proud white swan, confident in her abilities. Not good. When birdcage was formed, Dailisi's confident face finally changed, but it was too late to fight back. Chaos stretched out his right hand for a grip, and the entire birdcage began to shrink quickly. A thin needle rose inside each lock of the sky, and the distance between the locks of the sky was only 1 finger wide. What is even more exaggerated is that the entire birdcage covering the armed color has turned into a black and gold birdcage. Dailisi is not afraid of any attacks, but if her range of activities is restricted and all attacks cannot be avoided, then she is the fish on the chopping board. Birdcage shrinks and shrinks, and the internal space is getting smaller and smaller. All the fine needle points are densely packed in all directions, and at the same time, she can't slide away with zero friction. At this moment, Dailisi was no longer arrogant, and some were just panic. The thin needles in front of her eyes were only 2 millimeters away from her eyes. Whether they were in front of or behind her body, she did not dare to move at all. If birdcage continues to gather, she will be tied into a hedgehog, which is terrible to think about. In this case, her ability is completely useless. Chaos gently lifted his finger, and birdcage flew in the air to the golden platform. Dairis was like a canary locked in a cage, she didn't even dare to move. It's more beautiful when you see it up close. Stussy tilted her head to look at Chaos, and Sakura's little mouth was curved. She wanted to see what this man would do. 90% of her felt that this man would make this woman her own, just like threatening herself. Crocodile hugged his shoulders and snorted coldly, looking at the sexy Dairis, without the slightest interest in his eyes. Obviously the brothel was brought down that time, which brought a lot of psychological shadows to him. Indeed, but the lights are the same when they are off.
Chaos is not very interested, he is not after women, and there are too many beauties in the pirate world, and occasionally just relax.
A real man must follow Wang Tu's domineering industry. Now he's walking on the tightrope, trying to float with his life, so be more serious. In the end, the reason is that Chaos prefers excitement and heartbeat, only then can he feel alive. The essence of life is more addictive than shooting a gun. Both Crocodile and Stussy were stunned, and did not understand the meaning of Chaos's words at first.
What is called a light-off is the same. After taking a closer look, whether it was Crocodile or Stussy, they looked at Chaos differently.
Everyone is young, understand. It's still too weak to meet my requirements. Seeing Dairis, who was begging with horror on her face, Chaos frowned and finally shook his head, giving up the idea of subduing Dairis. This is a vase. He couldn't meet his requirements at all. With a snap of the finger, the fine needle on the lock of the sky turned into some gold powder, and entered the body through Dairis's ears and nostrils. Jingle bell. Birdcage disintegrated, and the next moment Dairis crashed to the ground, and honestly knelt beside Burst Bear Trusha. Chaos didn't have the slightest pity for the jade. Boss, such a beautiful woman, are you not interested? Stussy couldn't understand the man, or the sexual orientation of this man. Not everyone can be my subordinate, you should be fortunate. Chaos looked at Stussy with a faint smile. Stussy reached out and swept the hair from his forehead to the base of his ears, leaving no traces to avoid Chaos's gaze. It didn't even last for 5 minutes. Maker Karkat, Leopard King Tichel and all the pirates had stern faces. No one thought that the skater Dairis would kneel so fast. The appearance of winning tickets in the first place really gave them a kind of peace of mind. The illusion disappeared the moment I knelt down. Moreover, they may have underestimated the strength of the Golden Emperor. Of course, it is not ruled out that it is the skater Dairis who underestimated the enemy. Only the Obsidian King Mohieta can shoot now. We withdraw. But the Obsidian King Mohieta, who looked 5 big and 3 thick on the outside, but very thin on the inside, greeted him and proceeded to withdraw without saying a word. This is what the Leopard King and others did not expect. King Obsidian, you actually want to retreat? Maker Kakot was caught off guard, and his tone was trembling. Humph. The Obsidian King snorted coldly. These people want him to step on the thunder, do they think they don't know? Although he said that there might be golden rain in his subordinates, he had already thought of a solution. The nemesis of devil fruit has always been the sea. If the Golden Emperor manipulates people through those golden rains, the seawater must be washed away, or the connection between the golden rain and the Golden Emperor can be broken. Whether the guess is true or not, it is worth a try. And he will not leave Post Island, but intends to wait and see for a while. If he is lucky, it may not be possible to find a leak. He is not so stupid when he is in his early years. He doesn't seem to have an IQ, but he is actually smarter than anyone else. And he didn't plan to tell everyone about the guest possibility. Damn it. A trace of violence flashed in the eyes of Leopard King Tichel, but there was golden rain in his body. If it is not solved, the Golden Emperor will be a sharp knife hanging on his neck in the future. Unless you see the Golden Emperor in the future, go around.
We also withdraw. Maker Cocket looked at the back of the Obsidian King Mojieta leaving. His eyes ran out and he remained calm, thoughtful.
Maker, you. The Leopard King couldn't believe it, but he had to know that this guy was just like him. Captain, what are we going to do? All the subordinates looked at the Leopard King Tichel, all of them pale. We also withdraw. Looking at Chaos very unwillingly, the Leopard King Tichel's eyes were red. Call out. Rumble. They want to leave, but some people don't want the Leopard King and others to leave. A golden square painted halberd shot obliquely to the surface, causing a huge explosion and mud splashing, revealing the gloomy look of Obsidian King Mojieta that could not contain his anger. In the entire midair, rows of knives, guns, swords and halberds were aligned, causing all the pirates of the Obsidian Pirates to swallow wildly. The Golden Emperor. Before the Obsidian King broke out, the Maker Kakot and the Leopard King Tichel flew towards the field uncontrollably. Their expressions were frightened and angry. Boom. With two kneeling sounds in succession, the Maker and the Leopard King kneeled beside the skater Dairis and the burly bear Trusha. Whether it's a skater or a bear, they can't even blink their eyes, but as the Leopard King and the Maker kneel next to them, you can see the gloating in their eyes. Don't leave if you come. Chaos directly ignored the two of them, raised his hand to look at the Obsidian King Mojieta, and gently pressed down all the swords, spears and halberds and began to shoot. These pirates have a good aura, and the difference between the mobs and the elites is completely different. Rumble. The sound of howls continued to explode, and the whole body of the Obsidian King Mojiet turned into obsidian, and he was dyed with an armed color, and he was forcibly resisted. Those knives, spears, swords and halberds splashed a lot of sparks on the body, but they couldn't break the defense. It can be seen how strong the Obsidian King's defense is. If the skater's defense is skillful, then the Obsidian King's defense is the one that is positive and very hard. Emperor Golden, you are looking for death. The Obsidian King was furious. The other party was really deceiving people too much. He even tried to keep him. Since you can't hide, you have to do it. The ground under his feet exploded, and King Obsidian turned around and rushed out towards Chaos, blasting around him frantically, without affecting his speed in the slightest. Catch the thief first, catch the king first, and King Obsidian's plan couldn't be clearer. Facing the menacing Obsidian King, Chaos slowly lit a cigar, squinted his eyes slightly and exhaled the smoke ring, and swiped his right hand in front of him, and the original burst of swords, guns and halberds began to be dyed black and gold.
He used armament hockey. Boom. Flying sand and walking stones swept all around. The Obsidian King, who was originally like a locomotive, was sinking into the ground and couldn't help retreating. He grabbed a Fangtian painted halberd with both hands, and the black golden halberd tip pierced his skin. A trace of bright red blood is constantly overflowing.